Hey, welcome everybody. Hey, guess who we got back? Yes, we've got Joe Brad back. He was with us the other day. He was that pretty nice guy that just wanted to ask some science questions. We all said fine. We sat there for about an hour, had a pretty good discussion actually. He's back with his friend Jim Hill, who's also a regular viewer to my channel. And I guess Joe wants to know why rockets work in space. I think that's going to be like the topic, isn't it? And by the way, I'm really tired today. So if I sound out of it, I probably am. Got a lot going on today. But this is going to wake me up, hopefully. So we'll see.
The primary question was the ISS strange orbit.
The ISS, which, okay.
The
So
orbit.
why we do this? Let me see if I get Red's rhetoric in here. This is like his favorite thing. He is the foremost leading expert in our community in all things ISS. And I'll also get Sean Hufford in here.
It's funny that you guys are going to invite him on because I've asked him one of these questions.
Who Reds?
Asked about Saturn one time, and the same question I was going to ask you.
Actually, I don't seem to be able to get Sean Hufford in here. Maybe I could do him manually. Oh, that came out wrong. Phrasing, Steve. Phrasing. Let me see here. Anybody got Sean? I don't seem to have Sean. For some reason, it doesn't like find him. How weird. Um, I want people are asking to join. I got a lot of people asking to join, but I really want people that can actually kind of contribute as far as the science here. So let's see here. George, you want in here? So give us a few seconds. We're still finding some people. George, I'll put the link to you. And let's see here. Yeah, Sean, if you're listening, you're gonna have to find it the link at the normal place. I can't seem to find you for some strange reason. But let me put the link in the Hangout thing. Some other people. All right. So, anyways, guys, as George astutely notes in the live chat, that when it comes to rockets, it has nothing to do with aerodynamics when you're in space. It has to do with conservation of linear momentum. However, do you want to talk about the ISS first? I mean, do you want to like know what it is? Do you want to know how it got up there? What's your question on it exactly? Maybe we can kind of go through it.
More or less, the simulating orbit. If you see it on the ISS trackers, it has a sine wave kind of an orbit.
Hmm?
Wondering how the hell they managed to get it to simulate.
Well, you got to remember. Do you know why it looks like a sinusoidal? It's not like the satellite's moving in that path. That's a mixture of the fact that it's going around in an orbit, but the Earth is also rotating along its axis.
Oh,
So
really?
that's going to produce that sinusoidal type pattern. But to the satellite, it's just going around like a regular ellipse to us.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So I mean, think about it. If you got the Earth tilting on its axis, right? It's like a 23-degree axis. It's rotating around that. So as it rotates, and as that satellite's going around with, yeah, exactly. So as it goes around, it's going to be making pathing that sinusoidal type path.
Yeah, because it
The
it shows
best way I can explain that. I want to keep things a
it
little bit
shows
simpler than maybe last time. So I'm trying not to use physics words like conservation of linear momentum and all that kind of stuff. Just real simple stuff.
I literally thought it was because they were propelling themselves back down and then
No,
back.
no, it's just going in a regular orbit. It's just like I said, it has to do with the fact that the Earth has a tilt.
It just appears to be simulating.
Yeah, it appears to be a sinusoidal wave. Now
Cool.
the ISS, if I remember, I haven't looked at this in a while, but if I remember, the ISS is it about 200 miles up, give or take, 230
50,
in that range?
yeah,
I guess I can
250.
Google stuff. You guys don't care. Might as well be safe than sorry. Let's see how high is that. Um, Yeah, 205 to 270 miles. So okay, I was really actually spot on the ballpark. That's actually called a low Earth orbit. Anything between 99 and I think it's 1200, give or take, is considered to be low orbit, low Earth orbit. So considering the size of the Earth, the ISS is not really that high. I mean, it's basically skimming the surface if you're going to look at it as more of a scale thing. Um, but you can actually track the ISS. There's actually software out there. You can put, your time, and I'll tell you exactly what latitude, longitude it is at, and you can actually go outside and see it. It is visible from an iPhone. I've seen pictures from iPhones that have actually taken pictures of it. It is actually up there.
Seen it twice.
You've seen it, so you've actually seen it.
At, one night, then not the next night, but the night after that, I saw it and verified it was. It looks like Mars, the planet Mars.
I have never witnessed it myself, so I cannot tell you.
Seen Mars though, right?
Oh
In the
yeah, I
sky.
definitely know what Mars looks like.
Looks identical to Mars.
Mars is a pretty recognizable object in the sky because the way where it's located in proportion relationship to the night sky and this color, you can tell it's Mars. I mean, if for example, if you look over like to Polaris and you see Mars, there's a problem. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that
The
means something seriously has happened. And it's not no bueno because there's this the planet should follow what's called the elliptical orbits, elliptic, and so it needs to follow the specific kind of general area in the sky depending on the time of year. But you're never going to see like the planets rise from the north. It just doesn't happen that way. Okay, so you do agree that it exists. So what do you think it is if it's not a space station?
Well, I'm not claiming that it's not a space station, but I know the alternate. I know the alternate theories behind it.
Okay.
Because it would
Well,
be like a
yeah, go
YouTube
ahead.
spy. I'm not here to be a conspiracy theorist.
No, I got you. No, that's fair. I mean, yeah, we could always come up with hypotheticals, what ifs, but let's just stick with the actual narrative, what they are, and then kind of see if the evidence kind of comports to that. But I think one of the big things does kind of go to the question: can we explain why rockets work? I mean, why do they work in space? You're kind of wondering that, I assume, right?
Yeah, like if this is you know what CO2 is for like a BB gun,
I do.
and it's the vacuum in the chamber.
Huh?
If you were to be able to open this, would it bounce around in a vacuum or would it just deplete? And
It would move, and the vacuum has really nothing to do with anything. I wish I could kind of draw this. I don't have the ability to per se. If somebody come in here and actually draw a free body diagram for us, that would be spectacular. If anybody wants to come in, Kaiser, he might be able to.
Hey,
Kaiser, can you draw a free body diagram for us with like
I,
feet or something?
I can't. I'm on my cell. I'm a shell of my former self without my computer. That will change in the coming months. I don't want to get into why, but I can't use a compuer for the
All right,
time
no
being.
worries.
I'm sorry.
We'll get somebody else in here. I just don't want to embarrass myself by using paint. I know, that's bad. Um, okay. But
Hey,
if
hey, Virtual, how you doing, man? I'm sorry.
okay, go ahead, Kaiser.
hey, saying hi to me.
Yeah, he's saying hi to you.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay, so how about you draw it, and I'll just kind of walk you through it. Do you have like another scrap paper and a pen? Yeah. Mhm.
Me.
All right. So
Got it.
I want you to try. I want you to draw a box, um, with a little bit of opening on like the right hand side. So it's not fully a box. It's kind of like missing part of the right hand side. Let me see what you got there.
Oh, are we getting to information gaps here, or?
Now we're getting into okay. That's a little small, but it's just got the right idea.
Fix it.
Yeah, see if you make that gap like right in the middle, make it kind of much larger, like like half the size of the box.
Well, half the size of the box.
Yeah. So if
Wait,
your box is like 5 inches across, then you got about an inch and a half, 2 inch opening.
I don't. Do you have virtual presenting? Because I don't see anything.
Yeah,
That
I do
bigger?
have presented. Okay, yeah, perfect. Now I want you to draw in the middle there an arrow, starting from the middle and going all the way to the side that is completely encapsulated. In other words, not the side that's going out. Just draw a line from the middle that goes to the wall and draw a little arrow all the way to the wall.
Just fun.
It's like probably, yeah, perfect. Okay, scoot back a little bit. Okay, now I want you to draw three more arrows now from that same center. One going the opposite direction, one going up, and one going down. So just basically like a compass. You have, the arrows going up or going down. You don't have to make them as big, but that's fine. Just going in those directions. Kaiser, you presented? Oh, no, you're not. Okay.
I had to go in and out. I think I froze. My signal froze or something.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Now, you notice the top and bottom arrows? Imagine those arrows are forces, okay? And they're pushing against the walls that the direction of the arrow is going to. Would you agree that those in the Y direction, meaning the up and down, those two forces cancel out? Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're pushing up against this wall. Okay. So now in the other direction, on the x-axis, right, which is the horizontal, not the vertical, you can have a force pushing on the right-hand wall, correct? Yep. Yeah. And on the other side, you have a force moving out that direction, but there's no wall there, correct?
Right there, yep.
Yeah, there's no wall there. Okay, so that mass is being ejected out. It's not staying in there, right? So if you have something like an explosion going on in the middle or something being burned in the middle, it's actually an oxidation event, but let's say it's using fuel or whatever, then the mass that's ejected, right, is going to be moving in that direction. Would you agree? I'm trying to keep this so basic. So please forgive me.
Vacuum out here, though.
Okay.
Is this a vacuum out here?
It's vacuum. It's vacuum there. Hmm?
Can I write it?
Yeah, of course.
I know how to spell vacuum too. It's a tricky one.
Oh, don't ask me to spell crap.
Yeah, look, none of us know how to spell. You are not alone here, Virtual. Trust me. We are all illiterate in terms of spelling.
That's fine. Okay, so now you have this is like a basic what's called free body diagram. Okay, these are your forces. Okay, you have an applied force going to the right. Okay, you've got another force going to the left. You've got two equal forces going up and down. If this was on the Earth, just out of curiosity, if these were on the Earth, what force would you think that downward arrow would be? Yep.
There.
Yeah, if that was actually on the Earth, what force would that be?
Not sure. We're not sure right now.
It would be a combination of the explosion and gravity, right? Because gravity.
Oh, okay.
I think gravity pulls things down. Easiest way to explain it. All right. So each of these arrows represent a force. So now you have this force being pushed on the door to the right, or the wall, the bulkhead, that's called, of the rocket. Okay, or that way too. It doesn't matter. This is called orientation. It makes no difference. So what happens to the net direction you think this is going to go? Look at the x-axis. Do you agree it's not going to go to the right? It's not going to go to the left with the orientation it has now, right? It's not going to go. Now you've changed your x and y. So let's go with the x-axis being. It doesn't matter. Have it any way you want. Keep it that way.
Steve, there's one more question that you might I really want to introduce here that might make some sense to Virtual. What forces do you think the vacuum has around this object?
A negative force, perhaps?
But how much? Like, well, not how this. Not bad.
Well, the vacuum's not exerting any force. It's at vacuum pressure, I guess. Right? There's nothing.
It's zero. It's
zero.
Yeah.
Right. It's not pushing anything on the rocket itself.
You don't think it's a negative force?
No,
negative force. Basically, it's a force in the alternate direction. I know it's simple, but I don't want to keep it too simple where people kind of get confused. It's called a vector. A vector is just basically real simple. It's a direction and it's a magnitude. So if I say it's 5 newtons, 30 degrees, then it's pushing a force with the exerted force of 5 newtons, 30-degree angle. That's all it means. So if this thing where you have the x-axis, right, that's a force going on the bulkhead to the right, bulkhead to the left, and you agree they cancel out. So you agree this rocket's not going to go to the right or left as you have it set up right here, right?
Yeah, the canceling out is kind of what I was going with.
All right, perfect.
What's canceled out?
Point
Well,
to
not
the
only is
two
that
arrows.
canceled
Yeah,
out.
exactly. Yeah, those two arrows,
Okay.
they cancel out, right? Equal and opposite.
But this,
Now,
I
if
was
you
thinking
have-
that this vacuum.
Well, let me show you why it doesn't matter. You now have a force going in the downward direction. Would you agree? You're having what's called ejecta, or mass, that's going out the bottom. You agree?
Well, is it being injected or is it being sucked out?
It's called ejected. It's not being sucked out. It's being ejected. Imagine this being an explosion inside there. Okay, if things are moving away from the center, you have mass that's being thrown out the exhaust, and it's actually a nozzle that's actually there that has to direct this. There's actually a huge amount of calculations that go into this. The direction, the angle of the nozzle cone, the shape of the nozzle cone, the flow of it. Very, very complicated fluid dynamics.
Well, also, virtual. How much force do you really perceive the vacuum of space actually having versus the force of the nozzle of a rocket?
I imagine.
I don't think you realize how minuscule the vacuum is.
Yeah, you have this
compared to
massive
the
amount of
force.
energy being produced in the explosion chamber, right? And that's being pushed out. So the mass has to go somewhere, and it's being focused. Let me finish. It's focusing
I'm
through
sorry.
going through the nozzle and being spewed out. You agree with that, right?
It's this first out though.
Rumpus, come on in, but the link is you know where. In the Great
I
Trade Community.
don't have the ability to get these figures in front of me, Steve. But I know that the vacuum, the pulling force that the vacuum of space will have on the nozzle should be minuscule.
Well, yeah, but we're again. We all could get super technical and everything, factor in a bunch of stuff. I want to keep this as basic as possible without being to the point where it's just nonsensical, right? So let's just keep it really simple, because I mean we've been through this right before.
Okay, all right. Virtual. Have you ever seen the video of any videos? Let's say Cody's Labs, for example, Cody's Labs channel. It takes very little energy at all to make a vacuum chamber. It doesn't require much energy to make a vacuum chamber. You can do it in your bathroom
Right.
with the AC outlet.
The vacuum. The vacuum makes no difference. Just forget about the vacuum. Vacuum is irrelevant to the concept of this.
I know. What I was trying to get at was I'm trying to get the false ideal out of his mind that a vacuum is somehow more powerful. He's asking if it's being sucked out versus being compressed out of the nozzle. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Right. So let me finish where I'm going with this. And then the Rumpus got pictures, because Rumpus has diagrams. He never leaves home without diagrams. He's got diagrams for everything. I mean, you should have seen him on his honeymoon. It was, embarrassing. You ever figure that out? Rumpus, been a while, man. You've been around.
Yeah.
Rumpus, go easy on virtual. Just do go easy on virtual if you can, man.
This is just the tip. Do you know what that means?
Yes, I've got a very simple diagram that cannot be a problem.
Let's just finish this real quick. What I was saying. So show your diagram again. So you admit. So now you agree that there's a pressure putting forth on the upward bulkhead, right? The wall up there. There's now a pressure pushing on that, right?
Well, I don't know if this right here would ever reach the side here.
Well, it does. It's an explosion. It's going to reach the sides. There's a continual explosion going on in this combustion chamber.
A long story short, look, virtual. Long story short, you don't want to be in there when it happens.
Yeah, these are This is a continual reaction, but long story short, the net force is going to be on the direction of that arrow on that top bulkhead. That's the direction that whole rocket's going to go because you have a force being pushed on it. And let's look at Rumpus's diagram. So let me present him real quick. Simple rocket mechanism. Okay, go ahead, Rumpus. Take it away.
Right. Who am I talking to? Who's got the problem?
You're talking to Joe.
So this is a spherical chamber, although it's just in cross section. But it's a spherical chamber. So we're insulated from the outside. The only thing we're worrying about here is the inside. Outside's got nothing to do with anything. So we just have to, because of this chamber, spherical, it's a ball, and inside, in the middle of the ball. Yes, like a bomb, yeah. In the middle of this bomb mechanism, so there could be a sort of fire explosion fed by oxygen, whatever. So hopefully you don't have a problem with that. So I have inside this steel container, if you like, we have something in the middle, in the very middle, that generates a pressure. It's got gas coming out of it, high pressure. It could be hot. So just providing it's a pressure.
Does it make sense, Joe? So if that was an explosion in the middle, it's going to explode in all directions equally. Would you agree?
It's not going to it just
continuously.
Well, let's make it really simple. Trust me.
Although I've drawn, but in fact, of course, pressure, as Steve knows, whatever it is, Pascal's thing, it actually exerts in all the same directions, separated from in his. So you might expect.
But you're breaking up, man.
Yeah, you're going to hit a 5, Rumpus. You're breaking up bad.
Right, that's it started to yeah.
It's your British string and 2 styrofoam cups connection.
I think it's when I grab a big screen. Let me just try reducing.
Why is it that only Paul Joseph Watson doesn't have this problem across the pond?
I don't know. Well, Australia's worse. Trust me. People are like too many arrows. Too many arrows.
Let me just reduce. Let me just get rid.
Yeah, anybody can join. Come on in. The link is open. I put the link in the live chat. You just come in, but let's try to keep it so we don't have a whole bunch of people join. Trying to confuse Joe here.
Yeah, I get confused.
Oh man!
No, that's too big of a flow chart there, man.
He's doing intentionality. Stop, Rumpus! What are you doing to me?
Bugger! That's part of my new presentation. It's going to kill.
It hurts.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm
So wait a minute. We're trying to explain rockets, and all of a sudden you get into Fordo's argument and intentionality versus extensionality. One of the most complicated arguments of all time. That's great.
I've got it sussed. Even dumb people will not be able to.
I want to see that later on, Rumpus. I want to see what that was. I mean, I understood what it was, but I want to look at it.
Top to bottom, I've got it.
Hello from Australia.
Hey, you sound good, man.
Hello from Jersey.
You sound so good, man.
That was like really sexy. Yeah,
that was kind of hot actually. And I'm straight.
Why is he holding?
Trying to give that effect.
Yeah. All right, we'll get back to the other stuff, the intentionality and extensionality stuff later. All right, so let's go back to the simple rocket mechanism. Go ahead.
So we could. I was thinking that this was actually producing an increase in pressure, but we could just pretend it's done its work, and it's just increased high pressure. It's just created a high pressure system inside this spherical metal ball. But I was thinking it was constantly producing. But it might be easier just to think of it indeed as having created a high pressure.
Yeah,
so there you go. There's a ball.
Maybe a one-time. Let's think of it as a one-time event. It doesn't matter.
Okay, let's do that. Sure. Yeah, that might be a bit easier. Yeah, so we've had an explosion or some event that's produced lots and lots of gas in here, which means that the pressure inside it is much greater than the pressure outside, which could be a vacuum. Doesn't make any difference. Well, until later perhaps. So we've now increased a high pressure system with Pascal's theory. I think it's Pascal. That all the atoms. What's it called again?
Pascal's pressure law. The pressure exerted on a closed fluid at rest will be transmitted equally and undiminished without the fluid in the walls of its container.
Right, you're breaking up to me. I must be something like.
Did I break up?
No, you didn't. You did not break up. It's all Rumpus.
It's the Rumpus. It is the Rumpus.
I got a great connection. It seems like right now. So.
Mike, check.
Okay, apologies. Anyway, so the point is we have this high pressure system in here, right? So the point is that Pascal states that all pressures exert in all directions, and so it all cancels out. So in other words, the pressure going over to the right here is cancelled out by the pressure going to the left, and vice versa in all the other directions. So the object itself has no net force on it. Here cancel out because Because when this thing exerts pressure on this bit of the thing, in this part over here that way, but this pressure is doing exactly the opposite. It's pulling it that way out. So that means the net effect is there's no net force on this chamber. But what happens if we open a hole in it? Now here, this is still being subjected to the same pressure that was there before. This part of the. You unhappy about that? So Joe, if that was a Joe complaint. So this is still being subjected to the same, but now we have a hole here. Insert this funnel-shaped hole in one side. So there is no longer a pressure being exerted on the body of the chamber in this direction. So all of these are still cancelling out, top and bottom, the opposite one, so it doesn't move up and down, all sort of diagonally. The only difference now is the fact that this body, this concrete metal shell, has got a pressure being exerted on here and not here. Obviously,
it's got negative. It's got negative pressure there.
So I didn't catch that.
No, Joe. What Rumpus is saying is there's no difference in the energy that was released from the first diagram to the second. The same amount of energy is being released. That's what he means is by the same amount of pressure being released.
Yeah, you have to look where this energy is being, for lack of a better word, deposited. Right?
Yeah.
If you look at
the pressure here,
red part is
exactly the same as it is here.
Yep.
No difference. We're going to pretend for the moment this is immediately after the hole's been opened. That's all. We've suddenly inserted that hole on the left-hand side. So there's no time for anything to have happened. So the pressure being exerted on this part of the body has not changed as it was up here.
Following that, Jim? Does that make sense?
Sorry?
Joe, have you ever taken the valve core out of the valve stem of a tire before?
Or Joe, I'm sorry, asking Joe if it makes sense.
Yeah. You have?
The
valve core out of a valve stem of a tire. When a tire is pressurized, anytime it's pressurized, it's exactly like diagram 1. Diagram 2 is when you're taking a valve core out of a pressurized tire, out of the valve stem of a pressurized tire. There's no difference at all.
Because remember, this is a gas. It exerts pressure equally in all directions. That's what a gas will actually. It doesn't quite like it just sort of start to slip if the pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And another way to demonstrate this: imagine I have a balloon. I blew up a balloon.
Yeah, balloon is a good example.
Okay, so I'm blowing up a balloon, and I have it pinched. So it has everything's equalized. It's not going anywhere, right? But as soon as I unpinch it, what happens to the air? It escapes out. Yeah, and it escapes out, and it goes in the opposite direction, right?
And that's because the pressure to go in this direction is there's still a force here. Remember, force is equal to pressure times area. So this.
What if you put a vacuum?
Well, let's not worry about a vacuum just for the moment. Let's just accept. See, we've got this area here that is attracted by this area here. So if we add up the pressure, that's force. Force is equal to pressure times area. Force is equal to pressure times area. And it's not being counterbalanced by force is acting on the waves. The way you work out what something's going to do is you work out the except for these.
So bad.
Buggy.
I don't know what it is, man.
I'm going to reboot.
He's breaking up, right? I mean, I can barely hear him at this point.
Right, okay.
Rumpus, this is really, really bad on your end.
I'm catching most of it. I know what he's saying because I know what he's trying to say, but I can't really hear him saying most of it. So if I can, I don't think Joe can.
At least on mine,
I didn't hear him
a little bit. I'm not sure though.
All right, well let's check in with Joe. So Joe, are you following along so far? What's your thoughts so far?
Pretty much what he said in a nutshell. It's like blowing up a balloon and letting it go, and it's going to fly around the room.
Right. Yeah. All right. So you get that concept. Now, imagine that just in space. Why would it make any difference?
It'd be like sticking a strong vacuum cleaner at the end of the balloon, and as the air is coming out, it's being sucked out by the vacuum, so it's kind of neutralized, canceled out.
See, here's the thing.
Okay, yeah, that's why I was.
I got it. Yeah, vacuums.
Like that.
Vacuums in space don't suck. That's I think the problem. You're confusing different concepts, right? Yeah, when you have a vacuum cleaner, okay, what's happening is it's an apparent suction. There's a suction there, but what really is happening is you have a lower pressure there, and because we're at atmospheric pressure, there's a movement of airflow from the atmosphere to inside the vacuum. That's basically in a nutshell what's happening. So in outer space, the vacuum there, it's not sucking anything at all. You still have mass being put out or ejected into space. So the actual fact that it has a vacuum pressure at vacuum pressure makes no difference whatsoever.
Okay.
You just have a region, what's called a region of higher pressure trying to move to a region of lower pressure. That's all it is.
Yeah, all Steve is saying, Joe, is that when you have a difference in pressure, there's basically it's a regulation that's going on, a force regulation. When you have no pressure at all, it's no difference than being at atmospheric pressure when you're exerting a force. It just there's no difference. Oh God, it's hard. I can't explain this right. I'm sorry.
Hey, here, I can easily do this for you.
Is that pure?
Guys are
Dude, how you
yeah,
been,
what's
man?
up, buddy?
Good, awesome.
Not much.
Thank
Okay,
you so much for coming on, Pure.
What you got for us, man?
So first, the vacuum of space isn't a Dyson. It isn't a Kirby. It's none of those. So people can, try to conflate that the vacuum of space is that it drives me up the wall. And second, all right, so gas is escaping the nozzle. It's trying to equalize the pressure. That it still is acted upon there. There's still matter. There's still material there for that nozzle to push and propel a rocket in space. Is the simplest way that I can explain this to you.
I try to tell him that the actual vacuum in space is minuscule compared to this pressure coming out the nozzle.
Right.
I thought the vacuum of space would have been stronger than the explosion of
not even remotely close.
It's just at a very low pressure, but you're looking at the wrong thing, really. I mean, the fact is, you have that pressure in that chamber. That pressure is going to be exerting a force on all walls of that rocket. Okay, but you agreed that two of the opposite walls are going to balance out. They're going to equalize out, so they're going to cancel each other out. But now I have a force moving on one bulkhead. That's going to push that, and so the rocket has to go in that direction. It has no other.
Yeah, seriously, 1,000,000 pounds of force from a single rocket nozzle is going to be less than something that you can do with a 12-volt vacuum in your bathroom. Seriously, come on, Joe, come on.
You think the vacuum of space is
I'm really curious here what he means by the pressure exerted by the vacuum.
The negative pressure by the vacuum.
There's no negative pressure. It's zero. You think about it this way: at sea level, the barometric pressure is. I'm gonna use even numbers. Is what roughly 15 psi.
Oh, so it's just zero.
14.7, I believe.
That's why I said I'll use round numbers. So 14 and some change. The pressure in space is zero. There is no negative pressure. It's zero.
Oh, right. So that would actually improve the thrust.
There's less resistance, obviously.
Yeah,
right?
There's less. Yeah. There's no air. Well, there's very little air resistance.
Yeah, believe it or not, that's actually factored in when you look at these equations.
I never really thought about that. Holy shit.
We're not going to. I don't want to get into back pressure and all that other stuff because I'm so trying to keep this simple. I mean, we all understand this.
Well, yeah, and not only that also, but you will also have a reduced effect of gravity.
Sure.
So they
but the main thing is, even if there was some sort of pressure in quotation marks in the vacuum of space, wouldn't that also be evenly distributed around the entire shell of the combustion chamber?
You know, that was the first thing that I actually brought up. Very
Yeah.
first thing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So what net effect would that actually have?
All right. So if you were to blow up a balloon in space, even though it would pop, don't take that into account, and let the balloon go, it would fly around. It wouldn't stall.
A balloon
To
is
put-
a bad analogy because in the vacuum of space, yes, a balloon would explode
Yeah,
due
it-
to the pressure
how
differentials
they-
on the wall of the balloon itself does not have enough structural integrity to withstand that pressure difference.
Yeah,
But if
right,
you
but let's
actually
talk
had
about
like
the
a metallic
concepts.
cylindrical rocket, yes, that can withstand that pressure difference.
but if the balloon didn't pop and you let it go, in space, it would fly around, or would it just stall out?
Wait,
Well, it depends on the
it
pressure.
would.
It depends on the pressure difference. If the pressure at this exit hole, in other words, if you set this up in a pressure environment where the pressure at this hole, the outside pressure, was equal to the pressure exerted by this arrow, nothing would happen at all. But because
I'm
this
gonna
is
go.
zero
I'm gonna
pressure,
go out on a limb and say yes. Just saying.
What did you just say?
what?
He just
If
said
there was,
that that mouse is a zero, it would stall out. It wouldn't propel.
if there was no pressure here, if in other
No,
words,
no. I'm saying yes. It would fly around and have a vector.
Okay.
if
No,
what?
I'm almost certain it would freeze if it
Hold on.
come.
Okay, guys, we're getting bogged down on technical details. Yes, it's cold in space. Okay, yes, the balloon is made of rubber. It's gonna freaking just shatter.
No, well,
okay?
let's deal with this cast iron one. Let's deal with this cast iron
Forget
one
about
here.
structural integrities and metallurgy. Not important. This.
Well, let's
seriously,
just go
you
with
guys
this
are going
cast
way
iron
beyond
shape
physics.
here. This is easy
What
to
reaction-
consider a cast iron shape.
Opposite
If the
reaction.
pressure outside here at the nozzle was the same as the pressure inside, absolutely nothing would happen. So it's absolutely crucial that the pressure outside the chamber is less than the pressure inside
Yeah,
the chamber.
There we go.
It's going to
There we go
subtract.
again.
All right, so Joe, the pressure outside is less than the pressure inside. Vacuum means there's no pressure. There's no what's called movement of again, all pressure is basically just something exerting a force on something else. That's all really a pressure is over unit what's called area. Okay, so vacuum has nothing
does he
in
know
there
what
to
pressure?
create a pressure from. There's no air. There's no molecules, right? There's nothing in space for all practical purposes. It's just empty, right? So there's nothing to produce a force.
Do you understand what pressure is in terms of molecules?
Yeah. Does that make sense, Joe? There's no air in space, so there's nothing to move to create that force to be felt on anything. There's no pressure exerted on anything.
Yeah.
Oh, you get that?
So it's pretty much pushing off of its own gases.
The rocket is being
The gas-
propelled
no.
by gases, yes, because you have gases escaping from one direction, and you have gases producing a force in the opposite direction. So the overall movement has to be on the direction of the force going on that one bulkhead, because you have matter going out the back, and you have something called conservation of linear momentum, a very fancy way of just saying, look, if I got something going one way, I've got to have force the other way. That's all it really means.
It has to be equal and opposite reaction.
Right. Are you aware, Joe, that you're being battered by the air molecules on your skin, and that's providing you with air pressure? It's the molecules hitting your skin that gives you the air pressure. And if you removed all of those molecules, then instead all the molecules in your skin would start shooting away from you and dehydrate you, and eventually your mass would just sort of stuff that could actually evaporate and boil away would, and you'd just be left with a husk of non-boiling stuff. It's actually the pressure of things
if I were to
hitting you.
push off of a wall. If I were to
Dude,
push off
I
of a
didn't catch
wall,
that. What did he say? What? I missed that. I missed everything. What?
if I were to push off of a
Who are you
wall,
talking to?
Okay, if
Joe.
you guys aren't talking, please mute, because you're getting too much background noise. I can't hear Joe.
Joe, are you aware that if you're on an ice skating rink and you were to throw a ball, so you're sitting on an ice skating rink, Imagine it was a frictionless ice skating rink. You couldn't dig into in any way. You could not move from where you were. But if you had a ball on you, say a rolling, a 10-pin bowling ball, and you threw that away from you, you would go in the opposite direction to the ball you threw. That's the only way.
What if somebody else is pulling the ball away from me at the same time? So I'm throwing the ball. I'm throwing the ball, but somebody else is pulling it away from me at the same time.
Well, why are you confusing? Let's just cope with you and a ball. Let's just think of you and a ball in space. You would not be able to move in space. You'd just be stuck. The only way you could move is if you threw a ball or some object from you out into space, and you would go backwards in the opposite direction.
Yeah,
let's not get mixed up with other people.
I know the problem Joe's having. I know the conceptual problem. He's thinking because space is at a vacuum.
Who's scraping?
Force. And there is no pulling force in a vacuum. What, Rumpus?
Someone's scraping. Whoever's scraping, could they stop scraping?
So does that make sense to you? That vacuum is not creating a force. Nothing's pulling on that ball.
A zero is no force.
Yeah, a zero is no force.
If in fact on the other barrier there's a force is the issue. And the point is, it's all these cancelling things out. It's like this ball. There's a cancelling force when it was up here. Because these things cancel out, there's a zero force. But if I was to remove one, then you would have a net force, and that's what generates the net force is removal of other forces. And by opening up a hole, this force here, this force that's effectively here, scraping.
It's Kaiser. Kaiser, you've got to mute if you're not talking.
I don't have. Nothing's going on. I'm
so you're rubbing something.
Is it me? Is it me?
I think so. I really do.
Rubbing something.
Oh, fuck! I don't know what it is.
Yeah, Kaiser, it sounds like you're like shoving your microphone up your nose.
Oh, I do have a stuffy nose right now, and I
no, it's not your nose. Is the problem. You're rubbing
it's a weird scraping noise.
I might have I have an amp. It might still be too high. I'll be right back.
All right. Continue on.
Right. So the point. If I put a blockage, if I got this, if I just duplicate this thing here, this blockage, and I stuck the blockage there, because there's a force being exerted by that. So so there's a force here. So everything else cancels out. So the only thing we're left with is this force acting on this area here, pushing the thing to the right. This force here is pushing it to the left. But if I remove that, well, in fact, the way it works is
Kaiser, you're still doing it. Stop. Just. You're driving.
Sorry, I was adjusting. I'm sorry.
So the way that the things actually work is for every force there's an equal and opposite reaction. So for this force exerting a force on this thing, it actually puts a force back. So in other words, the net force that you consider this force acting on this, which then forces back to come with a net of zero. So if I put this, I just duplicate this.
You're explaining it really well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, if you think that's okay.
Right.
He always has diagrams. That's his area.
Yeah, with the diagrams to do it. So this air pressure here is exerting a force on this, but it fights back with the rigidity of the metal container. It forces back with exactly the same force. Otherwise, if there wasn't a net force of zero, something would be moving. So when there's something not moving, you know there's a net force of zero. So we know that the force of the air pressure is being resisted exactly by the bend. This would bend until it got to the point of resisting the force, and it's firing back. So you have the same, going on at this end. So everything's net, everything's zero, nothing's moving, which means the net force of zero. But immediately I remove that, not fighting back with a force. If I remove this, whoops, I have two of them. And the only force in this you can think of this tube that exists, because this just goes where it's got nothing to fight against. There's nothing to exert a pressure on. The only force exists is here, and that's firing forwards. Right. But that does require the pressure here, where this blue arrow is less. Because if the pressure in this chamber, if it was surrounded by a pressure that equaled the pressure in the chamber, that's effectively like having a blockage there. So the smaller that this pressure is outside here, the less you can think of it as if there's a little pressure. You can think of this thing gives a little force back, slightly less. So if there's a little pressure, it will give a slightly resistance. If there's a little force, I'll remove these arrows. If there's a little, then it will fight back with a little arrow. Solid barriers removed. So what you'd have, you have this little arrow, and then it would fight back with the fact that it's bending. It would bend out until it subjected an equal and opposite force to the force that was causing it to bend, and then you get zero effect. But if you remove that, then it's this arrow versus that arrow, and you make that arrow smaller and smaller until it's zero, and you're going to get the maximum effect. So you're going to get the maximum movement of this chamber. So in a vacuum, a rocket works best because there's no opposing force. The opposing the force that's going to take you forward. You want to make this force zero if possible. So that's why rockets work better in space than they actually do on the ground. You want minimum pressure here. So you can see there's an imbalance, an asymmetry here. There's a force forcing it to the right. There's nothing to the left, so the thing shoots off to the right. And the less force around it, the less friction, and the less atmospheric forces, all the better.
You know what maximum dynamic pressure or max Q is, right, Joe?
No, I've never heard that.
You never heard of max Q?
No.
Max Q.
That's basically the maximum amount of pressure being exerted against a rocket when it's being shot into space.
That's not really relevant, is it, Kaiser, to this?
No, that's basically all that is your kinetic energy.
Yeah, I was really just trying to make a pseudo point, but
yeah,
you're confusing.
We're not dealing with somebody who wants to learn complex physics.
Practicalities. We're not trying to build somebody's trying to build a rocket. We're trying to get
if we want to have a discussion on rocket theory and actually build a rocket, we can do that one day. But
well, no, I was just trying to get into the pressures of being absorbed outside versus inside.
Yeah, I was stick with very, very simple concepts. We don't need to start going into the dynamic pressure system. So
well, I apologize then.
Come on,
and then you can get more complicated systems where. I mean, if you actually want to look at the proper, let's just check that Joseph understood this, because it's quite a good diagram I've got later on that's on the NASA side that I can go to. But I'm only going to do Joe understands why an object in this configuration with a pressure source inside it will move to the right if you open up a hole on the left. Does Joe understand this now? And why having zero vacuum here actually improves the speed with which it will move to the right? The fact that
there's no friction.
The friction. And it's the same reason that if you sat on an icy rink, you had a machine gun firing, and it had a completely frictionless icy rink, and you had no air as well. Let's say you're doing this in a spacesuit, you would move very effectively away from the direction you fired the gun, because in that case you can pretend these are bullets instead of being pressure arrows I've got here. You can imagine there's a machine gun in here.
Wait, is the bullet
not a pressure thing, but a machine gun, and it's. Let me just finish. So imagine that this was a revolving machine gun in the center of this thing. It was firing out bullets all the way. Now these bullets here would hit on here on this side of the chamber and knock it, and trying to knock the thing to the right. But before I moved this thing and try and knock it to the left, and again you get forces and it wouldn't move. But immediately I removed that, the bullets would shoot out there, not hitting anything, but the bullets here are still hitting something and imparting momentum, so it would go off to the right. So if you want to, you can think of these as machine gun bullets.
Yeah. Each little atom is a little machine gun bullet. There you go.
And so you could think of the same thing as on an ice rink with a completely frictionless ice rink and no air to slow you down. So you're sitting on a chair, frictionless bearings on a completely frictionless ice rink, and you started firing a machine gun. You would go in the opposite direction to which you were firing, and you could think of this as the machine gun, that was where you get your momentum from, and it goes in the opposite direction to which you're firing. And similarly here. And now, if they hit something, which you can think of the pressure. So if this pressure here was considerable that we had here, sort of this acted like this opening was a sort of thick, very, very dense atmosphere. And it was attached to it has to be attached to the condenser. It's very important. If it's just flapping about, that doesn't make any difference. But if it's attached to the chamber, so imagine it was a very thick piece of paper or something, it would slow down your acceleration. But you want to get rid of it completely, which is the same thing as saying no molecules. It's not impeded in any way. So you maximize the difference between this end and that end. And if you put something there, even if it was just a piece of paper, it's going to reduce the difference between this pressure and that pressure. And you want to maximize that difference and get rid of it. And that's equivalent to having a vacuum here.
So, Rumpus, basically what you're saying is when you fire a rifle, the very aspect of recoil,
Yeah.
the very fact that you're having recoil, that has
Well,
that,
actually, the
that has
recoil is
nothing to
slightly
do with
relevant to the
atmosphere.
discussion. The
Let me
recoil,
finish.
the recoil is
Let me.
truthfully.
Oh God, let me finish. Let me finish.
Is the
Make
rifle
a clarity. One of my
What I'm
cases,
saying-
one of my
oh,
cases
God.
of recoil. Hold on, I'll quiz it just quickly, just 10 seconds. The recoil case that I made was when you're sitting on an ice
You only
rink
let
and
me
you're
say the
fighting. This
first
case,
part of what I was talking
All
about.
right, guys, forget it. Just stop between you guys. I don't care about
second,
recoil.
so-
Let's just focus back on the conversation.
yes, so recoil is
with the
unfortunately I
gun
never introduced it,
or the
but
with
it's
the gun
not relevant to this
or the
discussion.
ballistic space?
It's not. It's really not relevant. Recoil. I don't want to.
But it is relevant to
There's
the,
no reason
it is
to bring
relevant to the analogy
recoil.
that I made about being on an ice rink. So I accept.
You
that I
did
introduced it by
bring up
being
the
on ice rink for
analogy,
this particular.
yeah,
I did. So okay, I'll take that back then, and we'll just stick with
because that
forget the
really is
recoil. Just
recoil when you're
10
throwing a
bullets.
ball. So, but
So just pretend it's bullets coming out of this thing. It's firing bullets.
so let's ask Joe. What if you see this right? You see the diagram. Let me present this again. What direction do you think this? What do we call this? We call it a sphere. What do we call? We'll give you a name. This object you have.
Metal
Balloon.
sphere.
No, we call it the sphere. I like the sphere. So the sphere, which direction is it going to go? All right,
That
so
way.
the direction where the dot is, right? The small red dot, right?
And it has to push
Because
this
it doesn't
way.
have a matched anti-force here.
Right.
It's only got forces acting to the
Now,
right.
do you understand that
It has
it'll do
nothing.
this-
There's nothing.
Go ahead. Okay, do you understand it's going to do the
There's
exact
no-
same thing in the atmosphere as it's going to do in outer
If
space?
it was an object there,
Excuse me.
then it would hit that, and then it would try and as in hitting. If we think of these as bullets, and it hit this object here, and it couldn't fly away, it would exert that pulling force, that sort of on this, and try and exert the thing to go to the left. But if it's not there, well, it can't do that, which only leaves this in action. So everything else cancels out because there's no gaps on it. So all these other arrows cancel out because going to the bottom and going to the top is going to, the net momentum is going to be zero. But here, but this one isn't. It's actually hit a chamber boundary, and therefore will exert the momentum of that bullet will hit this and then try and make it flow this way. But this way, there's nothing for the bullet to hit. It just goes straight out. So it doesn't exert any force on this left side of the thing, but it is exerting a force on this side, in which case it will go to the right.
I think we beat that concept to death. So Joe,
Has Joe got that?
So what's your question now, Joe? So now that you see which way this is going to go, you see how it's going to work in space. The vacuum has no relevancy here because it's a force coming from inside the sphere itself. So it's going to go in that direction, regardless if it's in the atmosphere or if it's in space. That's the net direction that's going to go. Correct?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I got you guys, man.
Awesome. So
What about
what
this?
else do you want to ask?
Okay, well, if you're up for that, then
You know what that first show?
there's a good if you want to go a bit further, then there's a NASA diagram
Let me
that
present to you real quick. So
Looks like a big
here. I'm
butt.
presenting you.
Looks like a big butt. Somebody taking their pants down, mooning the whole chat.
Kinky.
Need to hold that a little further back from the
Yeah,
camera. This is way too close.
we're not framed. Can you pull it back a little bit? Okay,
You
so
talking
what are
to
we
me?
actually looking at here?
We're looking
Joe,
at a light
Against the
bulb.
Further-
wall.
Further back, not further down.
I can see it. This is good. Okay, so what are we doing here?
I think it's a light bulb.
These are attached.
Well, what are they? I don't even know what we're looking at. I'm sorry.
It's a balloon pushing off a solid object, I would say.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, you're right. But the solid object is attached to the balloon. It's not going to go anywhere.
It's not going to go anywhere.
Right. Right. It's like if you take a skateboard and you put a fan on it and a sail, it's not going to go anywhere, right? You put a fan on one end, you put a sail on the other where it doesn't move anywhere. Yeah.
What's the contention here?
Yeah.
I don't understand. What's the contention with
Yeah.
that
So what's
diagram?
what does that have to do with?
I was going to
talking
show a more complicated. I was going to show a more complicated equation if Joe's got understood that. If we're going a bit deeper.
I don't know. I
He's
want to.
talking about a balloon with a weight attached.
I'm not sure what the relevancy of that is, Joe.
I don't know either.
All right. So how about
I don't know either.
how about we just totally discount that because that has really nothing to do with the rocket. Okay, so Rumpus. Oh, good God, Rumpus! No, we're not going.
That's too much, isn't it?
Way too much.
The key thing here, I'll just quickly go over I won't go through the equations, but I'll just go through the theory. The last equation here.
Really
and you can actually ignore half of that.
God, no. Look,
So
Joe's making so much progress, Rumpus. I really do think
I mean, I could go through this with you, and we could totally do the math.
I can very quickly give a very quick summary of the end of the thrust equation here. We can actually forget about this in the case where the what's called the pressure and the atmospheric pressure are the same. This
He shall
zero,
not
so we
be
can ignore
stopped.
Rumpus, I love you, but I hate you. But I love you, but I hate you.
Well, I'm glad we've got a dynamic relationship, guys. But so I'll quickly summarize
I
this.
don't know if this is actually the hangout for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, because now you're going to get into what's called
It's going to be very quick, and I can do it.
Rumpus,
Rumpus, math. No math.
Yeah, let's not
We
go
do
there.
not
I mean,
understand math.
I am fascinated.
We evaporate what's done, not math.
I can do it in a sentence. For God's sake, give me a
All
go.
right. Shut up, Rumpus. You have 1 minute.
Right.
Joe, just
a minute. Yeah, give me a minute. Right.
You have 1 minute.
So the thrust coming out of a nozzle, which is this F. I don't know if you're familiar with F is equal to force, and we can forget about this part of the equation because this is called to do with external pressure differences, and that's zero in this case. So we can forget about that. And what it's equal to is the velocity of the oxidized fuel as it comes out of the rocket times gas ejection. So that's the number of kilograms per second nozzle, and that's the velocity. And those two combined give the final force. When we go back to my previous diagram, it's just the number of bullets, effectively, that are leaving the nozzle and their velocity. If you multiply those two together, you actually get the net force on the thrust. And that's affected by the speed with which the mass of the fuel is pumped into. But effectively, it comes down to two simple multiplies: the mass per second that's being ejected and the that's being pumped in times the velocity of the nozzle. There we go.
All right, so forget everything he just said because that absolutely way over your head, and I don't know why we would ever go into that stuff. So let's just go
you
back
can see I put a timer on that as well.
Yeah, but I told him I'd give him a minute, so that's look at so. Yeah, there was that. I would never have taught it that way in any way, shape, or form. And I did. By the way, I did teach some stuff in prototype and when we get to the fleet. So we do have to explain these concepts to people. So I would have never gone to that level, even though I totally understand what Rumpus is saying. But you don't want to like show somebody who barely understands physics something like mass flow rates, right? Start with the basics.
Just thought I didn't quite know where Joe was. I mean, if you walk away understanding this diagram, you've made more progress than half the flat earthers and a good deal of creationists. I mean, you already 2 classes out of 10.
I agree with that.
I'd say more like 99% more.
Yeah.
More, yeah.
I definitely agree with that. But let's get back to Joe. So Joe, what are your questions? And we'll see if we can answer them.
I just had a couple more. If you've ever seen Saturn,
yes,
I've seen Saturn.
Yes, personally with a nice telescope. Yep.
It's yellow as fuck.
Actually, it's more like peach.
Looks gold.
All right. So what's your question?
It's all one color. It's like even the rings.
Well, that depends on what kind of aperture telescope you're using. If you're using a cheap telescope that's like 4.5, 5 inches in aperture diameter in the mirror or less, it's going to look one color. But when you get to 6 and 8 inch diameter mirror parabolic telescopes, you see more color, a lot more color actually.
Yeah, generally what's going to happen is one color is going to be, for all practical, I'm going to say the word saturated because I think it's the easiest. That
would be good. Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, so you have this what's called saturation. Your eyes are not going to be sensitive enough to see the variance in the colorations of the planet with a small what's called aperture or size. Okay, so the telescope, the bigger you get, the more light collection you have, which makes sense, right? Think of it as like a big old catcher's mitt. The bigger catcher's mitt you have, the more area you have to catch things, right? So if you have a telescope with a big fat opening, it's going to get more light collection, and it can actually see different gradients of color better. Does that make sense?
All right.
Think of it like this.
Here.
Think of it as a leaf. If you look at a leaf at afar, all you see is green. The closer you get, the more detail you see. The bigger it is, the more
Anybody
detail.
seen Jupiter's dot? Or has anybody ever seen Jupiter?
I've seen. I have a telescope. I have a 200-inch aperture telescope. It's a Meade LX70 R8, and I can easily see Jupiter's red spot with just an ED wide-angle 5mm eyepiece without
really
any
cool.
extra exposure or anything like that. If you have a large enough mirror, you can see these things without extra exposure.
And what's really cool is even with Jupiter, Jupiter has 4 moons that you can see amazingly well just with a very, very basic telescope.
Yeah, you can see it with just a 1-inch Walmart telescope. You can literally binoculars. You can literally get a pair of $50 Bushnell binoculars from Walmart and see Jupiter's moons.
Yeah, and a little trivia for maybe the guys in the Hangout don't know this. If Jupiter wasn't so bright, you would actually be able to resolve the moons with your naked eye.
Yeah, well, the magnitude is around +6. You'd have to be in a pretty low. No light pollution area. But you could resolve with naked eye if you were in a low light pollution area.
And actually, that's one thing that most of us probably did when we were a kid, Joe, is we tracked the moons of Jupiter. They'll change over sequential nights, right? And this is what Galileo used to do. That's how he knew that these were actual objects in orbit of something else. It's something you can do just with just get a 3-4 inch telescope. I like 4-inch. Again, phrasing probably not the best thing to say. With
in fact, you don't need that much. It's not for Jupiter's moons. It's not the aperture size of the telescope that you want to focus on. It's the eyepieces. You want to get a low millimeter wide angle eyepiece. You can actually have even a 1-inch aperture telescope, and it will resolve it. You just need a low millimeter wide angle eyepiece. That is the key.
Yeah, you don't want to go high power. A lot of people have this misconception that you want a high powered telescope. No, what you want is want a lot of light collection. You want what's called low aberration. You don't want there to be a lot of distortion, and you want a wide angle if you can. Not necessarily. It depends on what you're looking at, but for like a planetary, wide is the way to go. But you want something that collects the light and has a very good resolution, because what happens is if you have a high magnification, the trade-off is you lose
light collection.
Fidelity, yeah. You can see. Not really fidelity. It's actually there's another word for it. What's it called? I'm drawing a blank here. It doesn't matter.
It'll get dimmer.
Clarity. It's not as clear.
Yeah. Fuzzier. It'll get fuzzy.
All right, so does that help?
Another question.
Okay.
I was talking to Jim about this a little bit earlier. What would you say your formula for sound would be out of these two? Can you read it?
What am I looking at here? Sound equals airwaves. Oh, this is more of a philosophical question. To me, if you're asking me personally, sound is basically the what's called rarefaction and compression of air. That's all it is. It's basically a wave moving through air. It's basically compressing and expanding along what's called a longitudinal wave. That to me is what I define as sound. However, if you ask a psychologist, you ask somebody who's in a different area other than physics, somebody's going to be in more of a softer science, right? They're going to say the second one. So it depends how you ask.
Yeah, that's what Jim and I were saying. I think it just depends.
There's no wrong answer. There's no right.
Sorry, what's second?
There's no right or wrong.
What's the second one, Steve?
The tree that falls in the forest.
Except the inverse square law only applies to scenario 1 that you were talking about, Steve.
Sure, but I mean, it all goes to what do we want to define as sound, and it doesn't really matter. You can define it either way. It depends which context you're using it for. If you want to be able to mathematically describe it, then the way I'm going as a pressure wave is a much obviously better way to go, because you're not going to be able to describe it mathematically as brain states.
Yes, and
So you
also
think that
I would like to point out in the outside chat they actually have it correct. Sound doesn't simply only travel throughout air; it's a compression wave throughout several different mediums.
Yeah, any kind of medium. I'm trying to keep it very general. It's obviously any medium sound can travel through, but you have to have something there as a medium for it to do. In space, obviously, there's no medium. That's why you don't have a sound.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it the thicker the more condensed the medium, the faster sound travels?
Correct.
the farther.
No, faster.
Yeah, much faster. It's directly related to there's a thing called oh bloody hell, and that directly is related to the speed with which it propagates. And so something like speed through water is something like 3 times as fast as through air, and through steel, for instance. So again, it's directly related
to be honest, Rob, I actually never did any research on why that is. I just knew that as a general established fact. I really don't know why that is, to be honest.
Hey Joe,
Aren't there some plants
Joe,
that react to sound?
The more
guys, hang on.
intermolecular bonds are,
Guys, hang on.
the more rigid
Joe?
something is, the
People
faster sound will
are
travel through it.
concerned that you're not learning anything from this, and I want to make sure that you're enjoying this and that you're actually getting something out of this. If I'm talking over if I'm explaining it too complicated, please let me know. That's my goal, is not to be complicated. These guys are being very, very complicated, I think, and I think they're overcomplicating. I'm trying not to be, but let me know what level that you think I should be at, and is this helping you?
Yeah, so you think if a tree falls in the forest, it does make a sound?
Yes.
Yes.
Steve, I have a question. Are there some plants that react to sound?
Because sound is the compression
So you don't need
of
consciousness for sound.
The air molecules. So when a tree falls, it will compress the sound, the air molecules, therefore it will produce a sound.
Yes.
You know what I think would be a really cool idea, Joe, is if you there's a website called agenaastro.com. They sell really good telescopes for dirt cheap prices. You can get a 4.5 inch or 4-inch aperture telescope, a nice one with a long f focal length, for under $180 there. I mean, I think you would really enjoy having a telescope.
So would I.
Hey, look at that, man.
Yeah,
nice.
you know what? I've got a pair of binoculars here that my roommate, I just actually found for my roommate today, and I'm like, oh shit, can I use these tonight? He's like, oh yeah, so I might be out there looking at some things.
What's the website?
Well, look, Joe. agenaastro.com. I can't. I'm on my phone, but it's agenaastro.com. But look, I want to tell Joe, if you have binoculars of that caliber, you can actually see the Andromeda galaxy with those binoculars, if you know where to look. In fact, it's out right now.
Andromeda is pretty large. I mean, people don't realize how large that object actually is. It's just your eye can only see a small portion of it.
Yeah.
What constellation is it?
Hey Joe, remember, don't look at the sun with those binoculars.
It's in between Cassiopeia and Pegasus. You'll have to look on. Just go to any star chart. It won't take much work on Google searching.
Yeah, it's not a hard object to find. If you can find Cassiopeia, you can find Andromeda.
Okay. China Observatory, Wikipedia, Riz.
Okay, by the way, Joe, can you get headphones? I think a lot of the noise is actually coming from you right now.
I don't know. I probably messed up.
Oh, so we got 2 Joes?
Yeah, Joe Brad.
I'll go get them.
Right.
I'll go get them.
Yeah, okay. I think it would actually help because I think there's a lot of noise coming from his computer. And by the way, I want to say hi to everybody else in here. Immutable and hey, Hugin. Huey, are you there?
Hello. Yeah,
hey, buddy, how you been?
Sorry?
You coming over from your flat Earth discussions just to see little old me? I'm humbled.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm humbled to be here.
Yay!
Actually, the truth is, there's no hangout up at the moment.
There's no other hangout in the moment, so I was going to go to Steve's. That.
Honest form, you know.
Nah, that's cool.
Actually, regarding sound,
You could have said, well, there's no other hangout. I'll go to ODD or feet or something.
Regarding the speed of sound, max speed is dependent on altitude. So at sea level, speed of sound is a lot faster than it is at higher altitude. You're not going the right way around.
Yeah. All right. So let's get Joe's.
Steve, I just realized something. Joe can easily see Jupiter's moons with binoculars like that.
Sure.
Look, hey Joe, little trick for stability. If you, because when you're trying to look at something in the sky with binoculars, free-handed, it it shakes all around and stuff. You can't really, focus on something tight. A way to fix that, if you actually put your elbows up on like a car top, and use your elbows like a tripod per se. You know what I'm talking about, yeah. That actually works very well. If you do that, it'll actually stabilize the image very well. You can see
Yeah, and my hangouts are now officially titled "The Hangout of the Last Resorts." Thanks, Baron. Hopefully, yeah. That's it. Steve, Steve, the Hangout of the Last Resort. You got nothing to do tonight, Steve.
Right now, though, Jupiter is literally like on the other side of the sun. We can't see it right now. It's in the what's called conjunction. It's on the opposite side of the sun. Give it another month, you'll be seeing it cross Jupiter at sunrise. I'm sorry, it's Venus. Scratch that verse. You'll see Venus cross Jupiter at sunrise, where Venus will be going towards the sun and Jupiter will be going up and higher up.
We can send you some list of objects that I think would be worthwhile to check out through binoculars or through a telescope. I happen to like the double cluster, which is actually, if you could find Andromeda,
I need
you
a
should go find the double
telescope.
cluster.
And absolutely the Pleiades cluster. He's got to see that. Look at it with the naked eyes, see 6 or 7 stars. Look at it with the binoculars, you see 50. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah, there's also some clusters in the Scorpius you can find. But anyway, so what's your question?
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, that's summertime, really.
With the M5, M7.
That's summertime, better than summertime.
More summertime. Yeah. So, ask your questions, man. What you got for us, Joe?
I had one more. I can barely hear myself. Wait, this is weird. These are noise canceling headphones. I'm getting tripped out here.
Well, you can hear you just fine. You sound good now. You're not supposed to hear yourself. You don't want to hear yourself.
So there was a time when I was studying flat Earth, and I learned a lot from it. Most of it's debunkable, but in the process, somebody had said something about the girl's space hair, and people say it's just because there's no gravity up there.
Oh, the space. Oh, what's her name? Yeah, they tell. I know what you're talking about. Here, the hairspray. Bullshit.
Okay, I honestly, I'm going to draw a blank on this, so I'm deferring to somebody else. I have no idea what he's talking about.
I know what he's talking about. What's her name? The Italian girl. Where they were saying that she had her hair sprayed up, so it was all frizzy. But yet they can't explain why all of their wristbands and watches are acting the way they are, or their necklaces. Wow, why is that?
Oh, did you lose connection? I think you lost connection.
Half the time they just sit upside down or some shit. Or you'll see them wear a harness as if there's no harnesses within the space station for exercise.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of constants with flat earthers, but one is they always seem to pick the strangest anomalies and take that as the norm, and they never ever have ever understood or ever gone to learn physics or science. Not a single one of them. I've never met ever in flat Earth, and I go to these guys. Most of these guys are from flat Earth discussions. They go there all the time. I drop in there every time so often and say hi to them, and I have never seen a flat Earther come in there ever understand basic kinematics. Not anything.
See, it's like somebody that doesn't know shit about poker that gets coaxed, they get suckered into a poker game, which they're being destined to lose. Or something.
They don't know the rules.
And they don't know the rules, and they're like, "Oh, you cheated! You cheated!" It's like, and nobody cheated. They just know how to play the odds. It's
trying to play checkers with MP when you're only familiar with chess. I mean, I try to play chess with MP, and you're only familiar with checkers. I'm sorry.
Or Chris Farley in a Black Sheep. Oh, remove your back rub. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
All right. Anyways, Joe, welcome back.
Hey, Joe, somebody wanted to see your flat Earth mat. Do you still have that?
I still have one.
Somebody wanted to see that. Could you show it?
Can you kind of show it a little bit? Can you bring it over?
Joe, you also said that most flat Earth things can be debunked. Which ones do you think can't be?
The ones I can't verify.
I would put forth that every flat Earth thing could be debunked, and I've seen every one of them debunked. Every one of them.
So I want to know. That's right. So I want to know which ones Joe thinks can't be debunked.
Let me see.
You want to see the sun below the horizon? Absolute proof the sun is below eye level. We've got that. You want to see curvature? We've got that.
Kaiser, let him go where he wants to go. So what do you think when you were looking at flat Earth? And I know you're not a flat earther. You've said you're not a flat earther, but I mean, I still like to have people have responses to arguments. So what do you think was an argument flat earthers had where you weren't able to go immediately? Okay, that's nonsense.
Let me see. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but let's see.
Where's the curvature?
Moon hoax, we got that.
I debunked most of this.
I use ISIS. You're using a ISIS picture there.
Is that Eric Dubé's?
No, dude,
Yeah.
you did
really?
not.
No, I think it is.
Holy
It's pretty bad.
No, is it
pretty
bad?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Oh my god.
Officials.
Wait, what happened?
Eric
Oh my
Dubé's
God.
200 reasons why the Earth is flat.
You realize that like 4/5 of those claims can be debunked by inconsistencies and discrepancies in observer height. Just straight up observer height. 3/4 of those can be debunked by just that.
Wow.
Yeah, but
I figured that out.
I think it's about 2/3. Basically, he thinks that the Earth should rise up in a bumper in front of you because he doesn't understand the idea of up and down.
Can everybody mute across the board? Because I'm trying to isolate these noises. This is way too much crappy news.
Mute yourself, people.
Everybody mute. And I think a lot of it's from actually Joe, Brad, but we're gonna mute you real quick. So yeah, it's you. Your mic is probably the worst of them all right now. So you got to figure out what's causing that, because the people all I hear outside is snap, crackle, pop, and it's quite unintelligible.
Goldfish.
But somebody had asked, who's Eric Dubé? Eric Dubé is the guy that's literally living in Thailand off suckering people out of their money to buy into this flat Earth nonsense. He actually advocates things like nuclear power does not exist, meaning that my entire 6 years in the Navy was a complete waste, because obviously I didn't learn anything, because that's what I studied was nuclear power. For him, it doesn't work. So I guess he thinks that, nuclear reactors have like hamsters in a wheel that go roundy or something. It's completely amazing.
So
why
Joe's
should I
going
mute
through
myself,
this.
Tyler? I'm not making any noise. What are you tripping over?
I was worried about that for a second.
Yeah, I think it was either Joe or Kaiser. Yeah. So presumably
I know
Joe
my
was
mic's
going
coming.
through. I'll find looking for one of the Eric Dubé things he doesn't fully understand why they don't work, I suppose.
Yeah, I found that just so many of them were just there were a lot of them were like chained. They were chained involving where there was no concept of observer height at all, and you could clearly tell that the claims versus the pictures were off, where they were expected to be at ground or sea level, and you could clearly tell that the pictures were not taken at sea level, where the heights of the observer or what was being observed or both were not consistent with the claim that the picture was associated with.
Most of the Eric Dubé's pictures or things that he claims that he has, I would categorize 10 of them are just repeats of the same thing, only phrased differently. I've read it.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
They basically revolve around not understanding what up is, and the fact that if you go around the Earth, you're at the same height. He thinks that there's a bump between two places of the same height above the center of the Earth. There's a big bump between them.
I actually think it's worse
It's
than
as
that.
if it doesn't curve from
I
your
actually
point of
think
view.
Eric Dubé has gone out of his way to purposely manipulate and lie. I think he's a complete fraud.
Oh,
I don't think he thinks it's
absolutely.
flat. Yeah, I think he's done this simply because he knows it's profitable. He doesn't give a crap about it. All this stuff is just basically he has gone out of his way to try to screw people. I don't.
Well, there are three people and there are 3 flat earthers, in which I would never ever expect to engage in any kind of debate, because they know if they did, they would get destroyed, and it is pure profit for them. And that is Eric Dubay, Mark Sargent, and Mr. Thrive and Survive. I call him Mr. Lion Knife.
What about
those 3
Patricia
people?
Steele?
Well, I think she's more of a follower than a leader, but still, yeah, you call that, her too.
Hey, Steve, would it be illegal if I were to, support Flat Earth for financial gain?
Would it be illegal? What does it mean?
Yeah, like
Okay,
could I
illegal.
legally do this? Because if there's money to be made, I'm willing to sell out.
Yeah, no, it's not illegal. I don't.
Okay, well, it looks like I'm a flat earther, guys. I'm gonna go study up. I'll see you guys in a couple hours.
I would if I was you, I'd go full on. I'd be like Alex Jones. I'd make Alex Jones look sane.
Well, I think all of this is.
Well, you see, right now
you'd
they're
be
putting
unhappy.
chemicals in the water to abort fetuses because
Officially.
they want a blood sacrifice.
You'd be rich, but you'd be unhappy.
Nah,
They're killing us with the fucking frogs.
One thing about my channel, I definitely espouse my own opinions, right? My own beliefs. I will never conform to believe something just because it's popular, or if it's the in thing. I don't do that, and I certainly wouldn't do it for profitability. Although I tell you what, though, if I ever became a flat Earth, young Earth creationist, oh my God, the money would be rolling in. Hey, Rumpus, want to have a debate on flat Earth? I'll take flat Earth. No, I'm kidding.
Oh God!
I'll take whichever one pays the most.
I'd probably do a special on that. Yeah.
Well,
I think
could it do any worse than what G-Man did, trying to explain why flat Earth was bad? That was bad.
How about what's the price? I think a good debate would be like, what would be the price? How much would you say it would take to sell out?
I couldn't do it.
$300.
If I only had to do it for a day, I might.
For a simple debate, a day, $30.
But see, I have a position where I have what's called ethics and morals, which basically are the same thing for this particular point. But that I actually try to adhere to them to some degree as an agnostic. So as an agnostic, I have actual morals, which, by the way, actually kind of goes into tomorrow's discussion. People have been asking about this. I might as well get it out of the way. People are wondering why I'm having Christian Hillbilly on my channel tomorrow.
Oh, dude.
That's tomorrow? Oh, my God.
Let me explain. Get all the size out. Get it all out.
I will take it as long as you have sliced Barcane in here with that's compatible.
Get it all out. Come on, get it all out.
Slice Sparkane's gotta look. Slice Sparkane's gotta be. You're talking about political hillbilly, or wait, who?
No, Christian Hillbilly.
Oh, I don't know that guy.
That guy. No, I do. He's a character.
Okay, so, anyways, let me explain. For a while now, this person has been on my Facebook page, Jim Barber, but I didn't recognize that was Christian Hillbilly. I've known Christian Hillbilly for a few years now. He actually was on my very best of part 1. I mean, one of the funniest video clips of all time.
What's your definition of knowledge?
All right, guys, let me hang on. So I want to explain this. So what happened was, he just was not answering any questions on my Facebook. It was really ridiculous. Scott Spangler is in the live chat. He remembers this. This is going back to 2015. He was in that video clip. So he knows Pops really well, because it's one of the funniest clips of all time. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Yeah, I'm going to promote my own videos. But I was really at the point, I was like, look, you're not answering any questions. You're wasting my time. What the hell? I was like, if you really want to talk, we'll go on air and have a conversation. He goes like, well, this is Christian Hillbilly. I've been on your channel. I know. And I'm like, oh, shit. He's like, but yeah, let's do it. I'm like, So I already asked, I already invited him. I'm not going to back out just because it's Christian Hillbilly. But I'm not going to be kind either. Let me lay it on the line. Christian Hillbilly is a racist, homophobic, bigoted, scientifically illiterate piece of crap. I'm not.
So he's like a legitimate, like the real deal white supremacist racist. He's like the real deal shit.
Yeah, I think more.
In other words, it's going to be a really entertaining hangout.
Yeah,
I have to agree. I have to agree with that one.
Yeah, he's just a piece of crap. He just basically got ejected from every hangout known to man, and every room because nobody wants him around because of his views, right? I mean, he's just an evil, maniacal person. He thinks.
You know what?
Well, hang on. He
He's
thinks
allegedly a teacher.
he's special ed needs teacher, supposedly. But he thinks that because he has God, he's the only one that can judge morals, and that nobody else can have morality.
You know
Right.
what? I really say, yeah, bring him on.
Okay,
Bring
so
him on. Why not?
tomorrow I'm having a very special guest by the name of Tony Reed. Do you guys know who he is? If not, you should. What the hell's
Oh,
wrong
God.
with you people?
Sorry.
Tony Reed has a channel. And by the way, I shouldn't be presenting anymore. Tony Reed has a channel. He has a series called How Creationism Taught Me Real Science. One of the best damn science. Oh my God! Yeah, Hannah, I'm gonna get a link. You come in. The series is basically each one's about 15 minutes. He picks a topic, and he debunks creationism like I've never seen before. Better than I ever have.
It sounds like a title that an apostate would make.
Well, what he does is he was a young creationist, and when he started investigating these claims, he realized that he couldn't support them. He's like, this doesn't make sense.
But he's still a theist.
Oh yeah, by the way, Myron points out, yeah, he's not a special ed teacher. He's a special ed bus driver. That's not a teacher. Literally drives the special
But then
ed
he's been lying to
So,
us.
so wait, whoa. So
Wait,
he's like the
he can't be
Jesus.
a
So he's like the
special ed driver
Jesus.
and also
What he
say
says-
he's
what
a
he-
white supremacist.
What he says, okay, because he'll be on tomorrow. I don't want to misquote him. I know him for a long time. What he has said is that he counsels them. He says he's a counselor. He is not a counselor. He has no accreditation to be a counselor. He thinks by giving kids, special needs kids, advice on a bus, he's qualified to call himself a school counselor. I am not making up the level of this guy's dishonesty. He's a duplicitous
I know.
piece of shit.
I talked to him before.
I know I'm probably like really fucking evil for saying this, but I actually hope that he goes into this hangout while he's on the job driving.
Oh, come
and
on,
wrecks.
Why he has kids?
I know. That's like I said. That is so evil of me. I just.
You want a bus full of kids to get in an accident? What the fuck?
I'm awful. I'm so fucking wrong for that. I'm sorry.
I don't even know how to respond to that, dude.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
Can you do me a favor? Shut the fuck up for the next 10 minutes.
Okay.
I'm not even lying. Just don't even unmute for the next 10 minutes, or I'm just gonna have to kick you out because that to me is just reprehensible to no end.
Yeah, it was like, wow.
I don't find that humorous. I don't find it funny. I don't find anything comical about you suggesting that a bus full of special needs kids should be in an accident. That's fucking whacked. In fact, Kaiser, I think I'm going to eject you just on that grounds, and you come back later on. But I'm just not going to sit there and listen to something like that. That is absolutely reprehensible. I'd rather have somebody in here like Hannah that I know has a moral conscience.
I think he's a bit loose. He doesn't mean it, though, Steve. I think.
What's that, Rumpus?
He doesn't mean it. Does he?
I do not care. There's a threshold I have. Some things should not be crossed. I have a very I don't have a very high standard for my channel, but let me have what I have. Right.
I mean, when he says he has no high standard, I mean, I'm here, so that
Exactly.
shows.
So I mean, that's the lower bar. If you can go lower than look a pig, you're done. Because
I have a podcast called Politically Trash that is extremely racist, as some people would say.
Luke knows where the limit is because I've kicked him out before, so he tries to walk that line, so he knows the limit.
What Kaiser?
Oh, I can finally walk that line.
Yeah,
Kaiser has done many times things that you had to kick him. You have to kick him out of the thing. Phil,
I just don't want to do
that.
That
Was actually one of his least.
What time is this
that was
going
one of
on?
his least offensive.
Yeah, and Hannah wanted in. I'd rather have Hannah in here at the moment.
God, am I going to be a total disappointment to you guys?
Oh my God! Wow, seriously, I'm kind of hurt here. I was expecting this nice, sultry voice from Bosnia, and I get that fucking whack job Floridan.
Okay, let's
voice.
not say sultry. Now you're just sounding very sexist.
Sultry's not sexist. No, but there we go. That's what I want.
What's going with Hannah?
Well, you guys, I take it you're both in New York right now.
Yep.
Okay. And you're still there?
Apparently, I found out the hard way that airplanes are a thing.
Yeah,
they work. Really?
Oh,
So
You're lying.
Yeah,
Airplanes
so-
don't work, Brad.
We saw your invite earlier and said, "Fuck it, we're gonna watch a movie." So we kind of put a movie ahead of this hangout. But now that the movie's done, shut up, phone. Anyway, what flat earther somehow has to be so stupid as to question whether or not rockets work?
Well, he's okay. First of all, Joe's not a flat earther, and we're going to believe we're invoking just the tip.
He's ex-flat earther.
Reg, can you explain to her just the tip? Joe is actually wanting to learn stuff. He doesn't know about the stuff. He actually has gotten to Jim to get a hold of me to actually learn this stuff. He actually has legit questions. There's
okay,
other
that's
factors
fair.
involved, so I don't want to be demeaning to him. I don't want to be disparaging. This needs to be, him asking
Listen,
questions.
not at all. I wholeheartedly apologize. Then I assumed by the title that he was just one of those. Hey, it doesn't matter how much evidence you show me. Fuck you and fuck space, right?
Yeah, no, I have to have something comical on the title. That's his bait click or clickbait.
Oh look, you got me for the hangout. So there you go.
There you go.
Okay, so is this a hangout where we basically explain for an hour and a half that every action has an equal and opposite reaction?
Yeah. I mean, I think Joe got it though. I think he actually
I thought that is being done. Yeah.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, he seemed to actually understand. Joe, how about what do you think? Do you think your understanding now of how a rocket works in space is better than when you first got here? You have to unmute, by the way. You muted Joe. Joe, do you know how to unmute?
Joe, if you scroll up to the top of your screen, you're gonna see like a little camera icon and a little microphone icon, and it has a red slash through it. Just click it with a mouse, not with your finger, dude.
Steve, manually unmute him. Just
I
do it.
can't manually unmute.
Aw.
No, you're close. Hold on, Joe, you're close. You hit the camera. You hit the one that looks like a microphone. Like if it looks like it's on a stand, it's right next to the icon you just
hit. Each one, Joe. Just hit them all.
No,
Shut up. He's gonna accidentally hit the end call button.
He knows the difference. That one's red. Don't hit the red one. Hit the other one.
There you go.
Tyler doesn't find this entertaining. I find this is like extremely entertaining right now. Okay, Joe. So how are you coming along, Joe? Do you think you've learned something?
Yeah, I want to talk about the Sagnac. Is anybody good on the Sagnac effect?
Oh, Sagnac. Okay, I have a look at the Sagnac effect in ages. Rumpus may have in his time.
Well,
that
we have
effect is
ROG
way too complicated for me to really even get into. I don't remember enough.
It's the Sagnac effect, not Sagnac.
We have ROGNs on submarines.
Well,
ROGNs
it has to do with light propagation. It's an effect very similar to what it has to do with the directionality of travel of light around a circle.
We have them on the submarines.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with enough to actually talk about it with any competency, and I would have to actually say I just don't know enough about it. I know what it is. I've looked into it, but it's way too complicated.
Sagnac effect, not Sagnac.
Sagnac. Is it Sagnac?
Sagnac.
Sagnac. Yeah. Okay.
Sagnac.
People that usually bring that up usually bring in other things like the Michelson-Morley experiment and Airy's failure. They seem to be a common trope that is often brought up because they think that somehow it invalidates special theory of relativity, which it doesn't. These are interesting phenomenon, but they're fully accounted for. And when I have looked into before, there's nothing in that says any to the effect that the theory we have now doesn't work. Just like Airy's effect or Airy's failure has nothing to do with anything anymore. It was a failure. It was a null result. It didn't find aether, right? It was looking for
the Sagnac effect is a principle ring laser gyro operates. It's an interferometer, is what it is.
Yes, it's like
we have on submarine
path for an interferometer.
That's the Sagnac effect. That's the application of it.
Can I?
And we use them on submarines, but I thought if we use them on submarines, in 12 hours, our displays would say that we're on the other side of the Earth. We'd be like upside down or something.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't looked at that. I haven't looked at that in several years.
That's the case. With the old INS system, yes, that would be true. But ring laser gyros are a strapped down system, so you don't have that problem.
And then there was a one where how do we have a magnetic field? The other one from the Eric Dubé's book was how do we have a magnetic field if the core is hot or I don't know if it's supposed to be liquid core, or if it's a solid core.
It's both.
And
Okay,
how is
all
it
right,
generating?
stop. First of all, Eric Dubay. Okay, if you're getting your information for Eric Dubay, just stop. Okay, okay.
First rule: stop when yeah.
First rule: stop with Eric Dubay. Okay, if he would actually respond to messages and criticisms or a debate challenge for that much, he would actually be one of the top contenders for Dumb Fuck of the Year. Okay, just stop, and you'll be way ahead of the game. Secondly, I think of the 200 so-called proofs that he has actually brought out, I'm up to like 179 of debunking them. A video will be coming out shortly. And
well, I'm up to 199.
Congratulations. Next,
or 198.
Then you should know. Then you should know this by now. Listening to Eric Dubay is kind of like masturbating. In the end, you just fucked yourself.
Well, but hey,
But do you really fuck yourself though?
Hang on. I did ask him. Look, is there any questions that you don't understand? Ask now. He asked a question that I was in there that he didn't understand. That there's probably a reason he didn't understand, because I don't know much about it either. So I think his actual question was appropriate, because we are asking him what from that book is the things that you can't figure out, because the other ones he actually said he realizes why they're wrong. So I don't think we should get on him for asking a tough question, because that's kind of what I asked him to do.
Almost everything in Dubay's 200 proofs is plagiarized from Robotham. Almost all of it.
I got that book too over here.
Yeah, that's where flat earthers can't get rid of their freaking equation.
Oh, the 8 inch per mile thing per square mile.
Yeah, Robotham was a religious crank. He's a nutcase.
Speaking of a religious nutcase, that is my new job.
But anyways, real quick, let me finish where I was going with the Christian Hillbilly thing, because I didn't get a chance to really finish. So tomorrow with Tony, who, like I said, has a really good channel. Please go sub to Tony Reed if you haven't. Watch his How Creationism Taught Me Real Science series. It's one of the best series of all time. And look at Pig, if you make one more noise, I'm telling you, you're testing my patience. Mute. People are leaving.
Sorry.
People are leaving because it's extraneous noise, and I don't blame them.
All right,
I didn't know. No one told me.
Oh my God, Tau Seti, is that you? No, it can't be. Is that really the Tau Seti?
In person.
Oh, I'm quivering. Hey, buddy.
How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Are you all getting prepared for the Dumb Fuck of the Year? Is that getting you all tingly?
Well, I try to set my mind on it.
You're not going to miss the Ronnies, are you?
What? What?
The Ronnies are going to be on the 17th, November 17th. So we're going to have a big old penultimate award ceremony before the Dumb Fuck of the Year.
Yeah, keep in mind, Dumb Fuck of the Year will always be the finale, bitch. Recognize.
Oh yeah, no. I'm happy being the penultimate. You can be the ultimate, man. I am totally cool with that.
That guy kind of sounded like Eric Dubay.
Well, maybe.
Hey, Red, how many years have you been on the Dumb Fuck of the Year? Like how many years has it been going on for?
Well, this will be year 4. So G-Man won the first one, Juranism won the second one, and Rocket Ronnie won the third one. And the fourth winner will be, well, we don't know yet because we haven't even selected who's going to be running. But I also heard that True Empiricism has been putting Antonio's name in the hat, even though we haven't even gotten that far yet.
Yeah, it's funny because.
Okay, so this begs the question: is Mr. Intelligent Design in the running for Dumb Fuck of the Year?
I didn't want him to be, but he is eligible, just mainly because I seriously think that guy has a mental disorder, but I can't judge.
He's in the running.
No,
Donald
he is
Trump,
eligible, as in he can be running. Why? I thought that wasn't the thing. Oh, now it is apparently.
Is Donald Trump in the list?
I have nobody on the panel talked to Donald Trump. One of the conditions they have to have talked to one of the 15 panel members at least sometime throughout the year.
Oh, okay.
And none of us have ever talked to him. I'm thinking Antonio's really kind of pulling ahead. G-Man thinks Antonio's going to win. But I got to tell you, it's still a toss-up with Steve Brown. I mean, so who the hell? And I'm not going to lie, Antonio's not Super Ref's the other guy. Who's the other guy?
Fletcher?
No, the one that he got caught lying on his own video was from Sean Hufford.
Oh,
you're talking
Riley.
about
Anthony Riley.
Anthony
Oh yeah,
Riley.
he's definitely in the running. So it's going to be
Shadows
a
Road Warrior.
that guy is basically the epitome of holy shit. What the fuck did I just watch?
Yes.
yeah. He's well, but hey, I got a newcomer tomorrow. I'm bringing in Christian Hillbilly.
What
I haven't
time,
talked to him
Steve?
at all this year, so he's going to be in the running after tomorrow, I think.
Riley's doubling down on his claim that a harvest moon appears 6 to 8 times bigger than normal.
Yes.
The maximum I think is 14%, isn't it? The between perigee and apogee and everything else, the maximum differential on size of the moon is 14%.
Oh, he hasn't measured it. He just knows. And he says,
yeah, that's forgot. That's right.
You can't use angular
Steve.
size because that's too confusing for him.
Yeah.
Steve, are you
Yes.
gonna ask Christian Hillbilly what the fuck?
Steve.
Okay, hang on. Everybody can't talk to me at once here. Hannah has the floor. Everybody else mute. Really, so much background noise. Go ahead, Hannah.
Sexy goes first. Are you gonna ask Christian Hillbilly what the fuck is straight pride?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
just the tip is only for today, man. Tomorrow it's all balls to the wall. I don't give a shit what happens. I'm bringing in the big guns tomorrow just to humiliate him. I think he's such a piece of shit, and he doesn't answer very simple questions. Here's the question. You want to know the question he won't answer? Well, that's actually been many. Matter of fact, the very first video I have, my best of video, he would not answer a simple question about dogs producing dogs. He just couldn't answer yes or no. Well, the other day, here's a question he can't answer. Okay, and I want everybody else to kind of chime in. Very simply, he subscribes to divine command theory.
Oh,
and I asked him.
So he's fun.
Yeah, so if I asked him, I'm saying, okay, according to divine command theory, if God commands you to go and kill and eat babies, that's a moral act by definition of divine command theory. He just will not answer that question.
Completely arbitrary, right? Because at that point, since he's suspending his own ability to make a moral judgment, he's leaving it up into the hands of something that's metaphysical. So at that point, it's whatever arbitrary decision the being, omnipotent or not, is making.
Absolutely. He has sacrificed his own ability to give moral choices. He has turned it over to a supposed being, and he has inferentially looked at it and said, this is my subjective evaluation of God's subjective objective morals. Makes no sense to begin with, right?
It's worse than that. It's not just he's subjecting it to God. It's the fact that it's entirely arbitrary, right? Because at that point, he can justify why it's morally bankrupt for someone to eat shellfish.
Oh yeah, I think there is an arbitrary there, sure.
And I don't. Any moral or immoral act.
But the necessary consequences is if God commands it to be so, it is moral by divine command theory.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
I bet you 10 smeckles, Steve, that he will say, "What is your definition of truth?"
Well, yeah, no, he tries to do
10
this,
whole
right?
smeckles.
He tries to. He's a preceptor, and he tries to do this whole turn it back on you kind of. So, what am I looking at here? Joe, what are you showing?
I think he's just trying to work it.
I can't hear you, Joe. You're muted.
The camera's tilted too
Oh,
far.
gotta go. Oh, thanks. Bye. Okay, yeah, no, awesome. All right, Joe.
bye,
Anytime,
Joe.
man. Thank you for you got questions. We're here to help you. Okay.
Sorry for bringing
See you, Joe.
too late to the hangout. But hope
No
to see
worries.
you again.
So
I know we were watching. We have priorities, okay? Shit.
Wait, does he know how to leave?
Probably not.
I think.
He's just gonna close the whole window. Or turn off the computer. Or he could toss it out the window. That's also a good.
That's really a hard shutdown, yeah. But anyways, in regards to Hillbilly, yeah, he can't answer these questions because he knows where they're in lead, right? And he doesn't think that if you don't accept God, you can have morals. And I'm happy to have that discussion with him. I'm not gonna lie, morality is a complex, the most complex thing in philosophy I've ever ran across. It is just mind-boggling, crazy. It's very hard to determine your moral landscape. It's not.
He's got a Discord server that I got banned from.
What's that?
Is that he's got a Discord server that I got banned from. I talked to him before, and I think he tried to ask me, under atheism, would it be okay to eat your daughter or some shit? I'm like, what the fuck?
Okay, first of all, phrasing phrasing. Just don't do that.
Eat
Yeah,
your
phrasing.
daughter
like
out
no,
is the
no,
correct
no,
term.
not that.
Watch your
Jesus
phrasing.
Christ. Like
But yeah,
cannibalize.
he doesn't understand that people can have morals. People can have right and wrong. They can have a moral compass without invoking a metaphysical being. Why do I need to sacrifice my autonomy, as free moral agent? Why do I need to give my ability to think what is right or wrong to somebody else? I don't need a deity for that. Now, I'm fine if a deity exists, but I don't think that deity wants us to do that if he existed. It makes no sense for that to happen. I would never subscribe to divine command theory as if I was a theist. I don't think it makes sense.
I mean, that's fine, but given that he does subscribe to it, it's totally makes sense for him to ask, like, well, if you know you don't believe in omnipotent, whatever, bumblefuck, right? My God, then how do you get your morals from? I mean, that's a legitimate question for
I'm
him
not
to
saying
ask.
it's not. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not. It is a legitimate question. I'm happy to answer it.
So, yeah.
You know, I've been trying to kind of pinpoint my position on the moral landscape. I'm kind of going to what's called universalism, moral universalism, which is actually it's anti-realism, more anti-realism. But that's kind of what I'm going, because I think it's making more sense to me. However, there's no right or wrong answer. You can be a moral realist, you can be an anti-realist, you can be an absolutist, you can be a relativist, you can be a universalist. It doesn't matter, as long as you are comfortable with what that position means and the ramifications for that position.
And also remember, you're not obligated to give him an answer on your framework either, especially if you haven't really decided what framework. But don't feel like, oh, he's challenging my ability to even have a framework, therefore I must give a half-hearted opinion. No, by all means, all you have to do, your only burden is that there are moral codes outside of divine command theory.
Right.
You don't have to go any further.
No, I totally
But
agree.
Steve, without my God separating the light from the dark, you would not have your morals to begin with.
Yeah. One thing that's funny is that under universalism, right, divine command theory is a type of universalism, but it's not the other one. The other one's called the ideal observer, and that's kind of what I find myself falling into.
There's a but.
Yeah, I agree with you, Hannah. Nobody has to give their position if they don't fully suss it out themselves, right? You can just say, you know what, I just don't know where I fall, and it's okay. You don't have to.
I don't have a moral framework myself. That's actually morality. Shut up. Morality is one of the...
like, yeah, I know she don't got one. Why do you think I flew down here?
Oh my God, Jesus Christ!
You walked into that one.
Yeah, fuck you, Red. Anyway, morality is one of the few topics I actually don't have a position on, and I've been spending, I don't know, the last 3 years on it. So yeah, there's by all means, it's not something that anybody has to rush into. Especially
it's not easy, is it?
Yeah,
it's really the hardest thing I've ever run across in philosophy. It is really difficult.
A lot of people seem to subscribe to moral anti-realism just for, I guess, the convenience of it, because moral realism is one of those, I guess, I don't want to say naive positions, but it's one of the first people initially think of when exploring the topic. And then they realize that obviously moral relativism is a thing. Well, because you're fucking unique. Fuck you, I'm talking. Anyway.
Can you explain this in layman terms? Layman as in me being a dumb fuck?
So, okay. So when somebody asks you, where do you get your morals from? Typically people say, well, it's just plainly obvious, right? Like, it's just obvious that you shouldn't kill another human being unless it's in self-defense, or a handful of other exceptions you could probably think of. That's what we kind of frame as moral realists, people who think that there are just objective moral facts, something that just is wrong because it is wrong, right? I find that to be everybody's initial position when they're first asked the question, because nobody really explores why you shouldn't kill people. You could kind of just take it for granted, Well, yeah, then you get into more complicated.
Hannah, isn't that just tribal instinct?
No,
well,
it's actually. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to emphasize on what she's saying. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we kind of take these things for granted, right? But are there such things as objective propositional moral truths, right? First of all, you before you even get to that state, you have to ask yourself, can these propositions even be moral propositions, right? Do moral propositions even exist, right? are you a
Small words.
cognitivist or you're a non-cognitivist, right? Could you
Small words, Steve. You're losing him. He just asked for a layman's explanation. Small words.
basically, well, there's no. This is why morality sucks. There's no easy way for me to explain this stuff. I don't. It's basically
We're putting our best
here's a
effort forward.
proposition, right? A proposition is a statement to be evaluated, right? All it's asking is this a well-formed statement where I can actually make it true or false, or does it really just make no sense to make it a true or false statement? That's actually what it's saying. So if I say murder is wrong, is there any truth to that value that I can say objectively there's some
Steve,
rule
I'm
that
gonna have to
exists
stop you.
when murder is wrong?
I blinked out.
Right,
I blinked out when I started to think about cavemen.
Okay, so what you're thinking is like a communal instinct, right? Like you think it's better for the society as a whole, as a social animal, that we just shouldn't do certain things because otherwise we can't function alone. We're not like wolves, Wolves, even lone wolves, eventually die out a lot sooner than pack wolves, right? So you would think that given the nature of us being social creatures, that we kind of just have what you would think of as facts about morality, things that just are because they are, right? Because it makes most sense. It's pragmatically true, right? Does that make more sense?
Yeah, cognitive behavioral trait.
Right. Well, the thing is, then you're taking into perspective one culture, one society versus another society, right? Like where there are societies where cannibalism is a highly sacred right. It's a highly valued. Actually, it's integral to the survival of that society. And then you have another society that says being gay is wrong and should be killed. Then you have another. You see what I mean? It's a transitional. It moves. It's different, which every society you try to examine.
Yeah,
Even
just like religion, it branches off and it
Right.
adapts, it modifies, it evolves.
Right, like with Thunderfoot used to say, it's plastic to the environment, whatever. But it's more complicated than that, because if you're trying to establish a moral fact, like something is because it's just true evidentially, right? What you're saying is across the spectrum, across societies, this is the truth. And because, like I just mentioned, there's so many societies that value different things, even things that you would take for granted, like murder, right? Like the obvious thing of just don't kill another human being unjustifiably, is called into question. If you really try to reduce it to, let's say, like one thing, just the one thing that every society agrees upon that is universally wrong, I don't think I would challenge you to find that one thing, because you'll examine that.
Execution of the
Yeah.
troublemakers. You see it from the Aztecs to Europeans to Africans.
But that's the problem. Oh, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. There's just two things at play, Look a Pig. One, there's something called descriptive moral relativism. That basically is the fact that we all don't think the same things when it comes to morality. What's moral for me may not be moral for you. Culturally, socially, there's a lot of factors that go in, right? In one culture, you're able to sew ankles, right? In another culture, ankles is taboo. These are called descriptive moral relativist concepts. So there's that to take into account. There's also, if some people say that they are a moral relativist, which is a very popular view. However, I don't subscribe to it, only for the fact, well, there's a couple of reasons, but the main reason is that I think it's very hard to justify if we go to a civilization, as Hannah was saying. She's got this down cold. She actually has been researching this, because she's spot on in this stuff, probably a lot longer than I have. But you go to a culture, and that culture has something different than what you used to. Say, for example, cannibalism. What do you have a right to impose your morals on that culture, right? And a moral relativist has no basis for that. And there's things like human sacrifice. To a pure moral relativist, your morals culturally are no different than theirs. You cannot oppose. Or if you have a dispute of what is moral, you have no basis by which to judge what is moral. That's the problem I have with moral relativism. And a lot of people I know, they like that idea of moral relativism, because they say, hey, look, I get to choose and pick what I think is moral. That's fine, but there's consequences for that, right? And I love the way Ozzy puts all this stuff. Ozzy has a brilliant way of putting it, is that no matter what position you pick, you're always going to have tensions with something else.
Yeah, there's always going to be, there's no perfect moral system.
Exactly.
There's always going to be a problem.
And it drives you nuts, because you want this nice, easy system. You want everything to go, okay, if I pick this, this, and this, I have a really cool, coherent framework. Nope, it doesn't work like that.
I would
remind me.
Textbook I have on philosophy. Oh, sorry. There's a textbook I have on philosophy. It's like Voyage of the something. Oh God, it's in my.
Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Yep. I'm one of those people that actually buys the textbook. It's because
Voyage of the Center of the Earth.
Voyage to the Center of the Earth. It's actually a philosophy textbook. It actually breaks down the different, I don't want to say moral systems, but essentially like the different moral definitions quite nicely, and it's almost broken down by chapter, so you can have like a nice introductory, in-depth view on them. If for the love of God, if I find where that textbook is, I'll post a picture of it on the GDC, and it's probably
Yeah, I'll
cheap
find a
right now.
PDF because I'm cheap. But yeah, I'd like to actually check that out because I do have a lot of sources for this topic, but there's no one really
Voyage
like
of the Mind
perfect
or something.
site. What's that?
I know where it is. Yeah, it's like Voyage of the Mind or something. It's like a introductory to philosophy textbook. It's not a hardcore textbook. It's not like you're reading, Huxley or William Lane Craig.
I think the best way to simplify it all, if I had to like just throw it out there, I'd be like, look, moral facts are what we think what ought to be, as opposed to empirical facts of what is. Empirical facts is what is, right? If that makes any sense. So empirical facts is reality. That's what it is, and then moral facts are what we think it ought to be. That's what Hume's is-ought problem comes into, right? Just because it is something, how do we get to what it ought to be? There's no bridge there. And so morals deal with that subject of why do we do the things we do for right or wrong? Right? I mean, how do we even justify that we have a moral system, or what's called moral epistemology? Why do we have morals? How do we have morals? How do we have knowledge of these things, right? Where does this knowledge come from? There's a lot of questions involved in this stuff. And it's called Voyage of Discovery, A Historical Introduction to Philosophy by Shadow Heathen. Okay, he didn't write it.
Oh, yes.
But he posted it. Thank you, Shadow Heathen.
Steve, I
I have
have
a question, Hannah.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Let him go.
Is there an issue you take particularly with utilitarianism?
Okay. I can't phrase this nice how Leslie says it. No, I mean, because I don't want to confuse people. I'm gonna sound like an asshole. Thanks.
Hey, you can sound like an asshole. It's
You're,
okay.
you're among friends here. Say what you think about utilitarianism. Oh my God! Which is, by the way, part of my camp, moral universalism. That's
Oh, really?
Yeah, believe it or not, it actually falls into that, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, well, I'm not sure. I'd have to double check. But why did you fall into that camp?
Moral universalism.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's a position in there called the ideal observer theory that basically states that morals are basically driven by what a ideal person would be doing, looking in from the outside. Okay, so it basically says that there are propositions that could be stated morally, whether how should I say a statement. When we look at a moral statement, right, when we say like murder is wrong, there's no empirical value to that. Or we don't point to something and say, like, hey, that's the sun, that's a fact, right? We can't point to a moral fact. They don't exist that way. So we just have to express them. And the way the ideal observer theory is, it says, okay, we can express them. Some of these moral facts are true, not all of them, but some of them are true. And how do we determine they're true? Well, we take an ideal observer, and that person looks from the outside and uses all these different things. Like, I think it involves like virtue ethics, where their own, bringing in their own virtues, bringing in correspondence theory of truth, and I mean, just a whole bunch of different things to determine, is this something that would consider to be moral? It's a very subjective opinion, obviously, but I've read on it seems to make the most sense so far. But I've got a long ways to go on this.
No worries. I just wasn't aware that you picked something, because I remember for a long time you were like, "Please don't ask me this question. I don't know yet."
That's what I've been siding to, and the only other person that sides with me on it is Sokka. Sokka is like the same position I am right now. Now that could change. Don't get me wrong. I'm not fixed by any means. These things are very fluid.
I think.
What the hell's that?
Was he lagging for anyone else?
Yeah.
Hey, Steve, I got a question for you.
Head again. Am I right on that?
Reload.
You're saying something we can't understand a word you said.
Reload. Hit that refresh button.
Reload. I mean, one of these days we'll have a hangout on this, but I mean, obviously we have to bring in the people that actually understand these things, but I don't think very few people do. Besides like Ozzy and Alex and the PAL talkers, I don't know who really understands these concepts exceptionally well.
Is there a way to understand what definition of morals you believe in without going out of your way and studying morals?
I don't know how to answer that, to be honest with you.
Like, could I just tell you what I think morals are, and you tell me the definition I believe in?
Hannah, you guys have to reload. You guys are just roboting so bad. Yeah, Hannah, nobody can hear you.
They don't know.
Can you just type to them, because I don't think they even hear us.
I can't type. There you go.
Yeah, of all the things, there's two things that I find to be extremely difficult to try to narrow my positions down. One is moral frameworks, and the other one is theories of truth. Because you've got like the correspondence theory of truth, you got the deflation theory of truth, you've got the pragmatic theory of truth, you've got the coherence theory of truth. These are complicated. I just picked the easiest one, which is pragmatism, but I don't know if I can actually, narrow it down to something a little more refined. They don't make that much sense to me. Maybe correspondence theory, I guess, kind of does, but the rest, I don't. Yes, now we can hear you.
Yes, this is where I know I'm too dumb to be in this hangout.
No, it has nothing to do with dumb. These are hard. Not
No.
look into this stuff. It has nothing to do with intelligence. It's just some people look into it and some people don't. And if you do,
like I said, I only looked at it. Yeah, I've been looking into it for 2 or 3 years. Obviously, not consistently. Just picking up a few books here and there. I don't have one like that one that I subscribe to.
What's your theory of truth?
You're not. It's not a smart person. Fuck off.
Do you have one?
I don't either. I know I'm terrible. I'm lazy.
I'm debating between coherentism and pragmatism. Both of those just kind of
fascinates me. That I know Saka was talking to me about it like a month or two ago. But hold on, wait, before I go off on that.
Coherentism?
What? Coherentism.
Okay.
Yeah.
coherent
trolley
theory
problem. Right. Okay.
Coherence theory of truth and coherentism.
There is a trolley that is going to kill somebody. No matter what you do, somebody has to die. Okay.
Fuck the trolley.
On one track, you have 5 kids
let me
tied.
do this.
Fuck you. Wait. Okay. On one track, there's 5 kids tied up. They can't escape. There's no way for them to flee. On the other track, there's a fat guy. Now, the lever only pulls you to the left or to the right. You can't stop the trolley. Now, who would you choose to kill?
You move the fat guy to the right track and you hit them all.
Fuck them all.
Well, there's your answer.
Yep. Okay, but do you kind of understand where the direction I'm going?
Yeah, you hit the fat guy with the train, and then you push the fat guy off so the train will stop before it hits the ground.
Now you're violating his autonomy, though. What's the difference?
You're reinventing the example. In the example,
Okay.
Am I lagging again?
Yeah, I think so.
No, no, you didn't.
Okay,
Don't
go
lie
ahead.
to me.
You sound good now.
Don't lie to me. Okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah, it's the connection's kind of iffy down here. Yeah, the trolley problem. No matter what you do, either the 5 girls have to die, or the 5 kids have to die, or the fat guy. You can't stop the train or move them or whatever. They are fixated in their position. The only thing you can manipulate is which track the train goes through.
You kill the fat guy.
That's only the beginning of the trolley problem. We've had how many variations of it? You mean we got to hang out where we had like, I don't know, we had like 20 iterations.
All right, let's send me through each one and I'll answer it.
All right, so
wait. So you said you'd kill the fat guy?
Yeah, because most likely he's not going to breed and have offspring, while the children will grow up having more offspring, benefiting society.
That would, that wouldn't even be my criteria. That would even that would even factor in my head as a condition. I would go by more. Here's a guy that's obviously he's an older guy, right? I mean, and I think
I know, it's
children,
not-
haven't lived their life yet, so I think children take
Can you
precedence.
guys hear me?
Not really.
Yeah,
You're
well,
kinda going in and out
I'm
a little
thinking
bit.
the children is a mix between boys and girls, so they'll be able to breed to reproduce more compared to the fat guy. You know, men are
Okay.
expendable.
I wouldn't.
Wait, let's put it through this way. Okay, so you equate a positive outcome with breeding capability.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if I were to tell you that the planet is suffering from a severe overpopulation problem? It's in a few dozen years or less. There's going to be
even better. The kids are sterile.
You kill a lot of women.
Kids are sterile.
Yeah,
I'm
You
making
kill a
fun
lot of
sterile.
women solving
No,
that problem.
The kids are sterile. So what do you do then?
Yeah,
The
there
kids
you
are
go. Kids are
sterile?
sterile. Yeah.
I mean, fuck.
I'm gonna kill
I
five
want
kids.
to kill the kids, but I can't do it. I'd have to kill the dude.
Well,
Okay,
you
what
still
if
let
I
the
were to
kids
tell
live
you?
because, well, you let the kids live
Wait,
because
wait.
it's a matter of autonomy. At least in
What
my
if I were
case.
to tell you that the fat guy in 10 years is going to come up with the cure for cancer?
Then the kids die. I mean, a couple kids, it's not going to hurt anything.
But what if I were to tell you that one of the kids is the president of the United States?
Definitely.
We're not talking about Trump here. We're talking about like a
Good
normal, average president. Like, relax.
Okay, when the kids lived in the United States, well, as an American, you know, I don't really care that much about foreigners, so that kid lives.
But okay, so do you see the general direction I'm going?
How about this one? Can I
You
give
can
one?
make up any scenario you want for the background of the fat guy versus the 5 kids. And you're essentially debating between term effect would be the other effects are, right? Because if you kill the 5 kids, do you end up doing more for the society?
Johnny,
Would you rather say that is going to grow to save lives or come up with the cure for cancer? There's always
So
some
essentially,
let me give one. Look at it. Let me go one because Han is kind of roboting out. Okay, so here's another example.
I have an example. Let me go over
I'm
this.
giving you mine.
You're in a war field. Okay,
I'm giving
you're in
you
a
mine.
battlefield.
No, I'm giving you
Okay.
mine. I'm giving you mine. So so the train's coming down the tracks. There's 5 kids on the track on the right now. There's a fat man that's standing on the dock that has enough momentum to stop the train. Just go with me on it, right? Forget physics because morals. That's not even science.
So the man can stop the train
So the man can try-
because
if-
it's a
if
very
you
slow
put-
train.
Yeah, it's a very slow train. So if you
Okay.
push the fat guy into the train track off the platform, it'll stop the train and the 5 kids survive. Do you violate the man's autonomy to save the kids?
Are the kids tied up?
No. It makes no difference.
Okay, let natural selection take its place because the kids should be able to move. It's a very slow
So
train.
wait a minute. So if they were tied up, it would make a difference?
Yes, because then they cannot physically move, and it's
So
it's their own fault if they die.
That's why I give the tied up version. Everybody's just like, well, if they're too stupid to move from the train, it's like, no, come on, that violates.
Fair enough. I mean, that's okay. I mean, there's a point to be made there, sure. They're too stupid to leave the tracks, and maybe natural selection, Darwinism should take place, right? But I'm not going to deny that. But let's assume that they're not tied up. So you wouldn't push the fat man then?
If they're not tied up, I wouldn't push the fat man. It's their own fault.
Okay.
Because they
God damn, you're one cold-hearted motherfucker.
Yeah, I'm telling you, he's calculated. He's just analytical about this, isn't he?
I'm not analytical. I mean,
the
they
thing-
should.
the problem
it's a slow train, and
Well, I
when
mean,
it comes to like a crossing, they have to honk. So Steve said it
Okay,
was a slow train, so the fat guy can stop it.
Don't listen to Steve. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Anyway, the point being is,
It's that.
the point being is, you come up with any sort of scenario for the kids or the fat man, and you're playing I don't want to say an arbitrary game, but you're playing a very close to the chest game about which group would do better for the society. So it could
Yes.
be the guy that
Yeah.
cures cancer, or it could be the person that, I don't know, like liberates, I don't know, nations from tyrannical rule or something. It'll always be pitting against 2 different ideals about who can save the most, when really you can't quantify that.
And
All
the
right,
other
let's
thing is,
do a more
the other thing is, I think
realistic.
that if you're a fat man, you should be highly upset that people always want to push you in front of the train and kill you.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Let's be realistic for a second here. You're in a battlefield.
Realistic.
Yes.
Yeah, like this is okay. Realistic.
You're in a battlefield, okay, and you see an unarmed soldier in the field, and you have the easy shot. Do you shoot him? Yes or no? He's
Personally,
unarmed.
First of all, I wouldn't use it in wartime, so fuck your example. I'm out.
Would you shoot him, Steve?
No, because you're not supposed to shoot unarmed combatants if they're not.
Wrong. That's how you get Hitler. That is how you get Hitler.
That's
you
how
murder
get
his
it.
ass.
That's your that's your justification.
Yes.
And then you violate the Geneva
You do
Convention.
your
and
job.
then you have a whole big
Yeah,
fucking
no, that doesn't fly in the military.
Yeah.
If you're in an active battleground, it does fly.
No, it doesn't. That's part of the rules of engagement.
I don't care. He's dead.
Yeah.
I ain't gotten Hitler number 2. Because that's how Hitler survived.
That is slippery slope from hell. So you're peeling from historical to future consequences. Okay.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Because that
origin story.
scenario could have been somebody that ended the war. You know.
Hey, you shoot that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah.
Nah. You kill your enemy. Plain and simple. You do as your orders tell you.
Didn't get into a top.
Yeah, Sarah invokes Godwin's law. Therefore, conversation's over.
Can't help it.
Yeah. Sarah's ass has spoken.
Hey, Sarah, I got a question.
She's in the live chat. She can hear you.
Oh, not Sarah. Hannah. Anna, Sarah,
Yes.
same thing.
Not even close.
No, it is not.
You're very offended by that. You guys must not like Sarah.
So I've been told.
I love Sarah.
Okay.
Sarah's ass is the official mascot of the GDC.
I'd like
I
to
was
see
told
that.
If I put a beer glass near her ass and drop it, it will rotate around her ass.
Oh, I gotta see that ass.
Yeah, it's got its
All
own
right.
orbit. Anyway, yes.
So, Hannah, if I believe that
Oh, you shut up.
moral comes by a raised, so nature versus nurture, it's a nurtured effect through society, then what do I believe in? Like you know the definitions of morals. Which one do I believe in?
That's
morals are just nurtured into the individual.
That's accounting for morality. That's evolutionary accounting for morality.
I mean, you can go into several different accountings for morality necessarily, but the problem there is I can't tell you I have not yet encountered the perfect moral framework where you don't run into some tough problems that require you to bend. That's what I'm trying to explain.
It doesn't exist.
Right? It doesn't exist where you can't find an exception
That's why we
somewhere
have
where the rules don't.
I mean, I asked this question on the GDC, and I'm telling you, I've never seen such a diverse group of answers. And I don't think half of them are actually justified, but it's not easy. I'm not going to lie. These are hard things to justify, but yeah, they're all over the place.
Just do what I do. Just do the best you can and hope for the best.
I just always look what Ozzy voted, and then I just mirror it.
I just do what benefits me.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't pick my views. I don't pick my views for somebody else. Never have. Never will.
No, I was just gonna say I don't know the definitions of morality. Like I don't even know what the hell you guys are talking about.
Well, again,
I was just gonna say whatever fits my point of view.
You have to even determine whether you can even make a propositional moral statement or not. That's true or false. That's you got to go from there.
I don't even know half the words you just said, man.
Well, then you got to start with more basic stuff, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. If you don't know what a proposition is, you might want to start from more basic stuff. Yeah. So let me tell you the breakdown here. So I had asked about if you're moral realism, moral anti-realism, moral universalism, moral absolutism, and moral relativism. Okay, so the breakdown is as follows with 43 votes. 33% said moral realism, because that is, I think, is one of the easier positions to go to, but I think it's a very hard position to defend. I think just people think it makes sense. Moral anti-realism, 16%. Moral universalism, 7%. Me and Sokka count. Moral absolutism, 9%. And I'm going to guess most of those are theists, but I'll check in a minute. And moral relativism, which is 35%. Or excuse me, I'm sorry. Moral realism, the first one actually is just if you believe that moral truths even exist. But yeah, moral relativism is an easy one for people to gravitate to, and that's 35%. So let me look at moral absolutism. Let's see if that's a lot of theists in there. I'm just kind of curious.
I'm surprised you didn't put in moral annihilationism.
I could have gone more. There's a lot. There's like a dozen more. Ken Lowe, yeah, Dr. Kenny Rhodes, he put moral absolutism, and Sean Cahill put moral absolutism. They're both theists, so I don't know if yep, Tango's a theist too. Coffee Smug, I don't know. Is he a theist? I don't think so.
Is there something called moral beneficialism?
I've never heard of it.
Okay, pretty much whatever benefits you at the time.
I think it just made that.
Is there anything called moral contextualism?
That I think sounds a little bit more familiar.
Just go with your gut.
I don't know what it means though.
Go with my gut. Okay, then I'm moral beneficial.
Yeah. Just go with your gut. Hope for the best, and if you're doing something wrong, we'll tackle you.
Now I'm actually.
Aww.
I've heard that term, but I don't know what it means. Okay.
Well, that is true. I mean, when you fuck up, you get sued a lot.
Moral contextualism is the view that claims A ought to be X are implicitly relative to some contextual variable standard. This leads to a problem. What are fundamental moral claims like you ought to maximize happiness relative to? Yeah, see, this is where basically all I read was I have no idea. Beyond my ability to understand at the moment, moral contextualism.
It's basically saying like you ought to do something in comparison to some kind of like, I guess you could say like absolute standard, but the issue is determining where that standard is.
But how is that any different from just morals in general? Morals are what you ought to do, right? That's the whole point of having morals. What ought you do in a situation?
I guess it's also like how to behave or act or whatever.
Sure. Like I said, when it comes to the moral landscape, I am just a retard. I'm not going to lie. It's hard.
I mean, like for example, I think we can all agree that this guy's a jackass. Florida man allegedly leaves kid in hot car, then asks the cops, "What's the big deal?"
Yeah, that's pretty dumb fuckery, right?
I mean, if there's a fan on or like the AC, sure, but if there's no AC, then that's
You're not even
damaging your offspring.
You're not even allowed to do that because the AC can fail.
Well, if the AC fails, then the cop, you're not going to leave an infant in the car. Like, if he's 6, he can open the door.
Let's just agree that some people shouldn't have kids.
Yeah, I should never have kids. I don't want fucking kids, man. That's way too much money. I don't benefit from it.
I am
unless when I'm like 90.
She's the only thing that keeps me grounded.
That ass, though.
You talking about my daughter's ass?
No, I'm talking about Sarah.
Okay. Yeah. Creepy.
Okay.
I didn't even hear what you said. I thought you said something about
I
Sarah
think you did. I was like, what the fuck? Okay.
I was confused for a second there.
Clearly.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, there's another moral thing. You gotta make pretty damn sure which ass you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's moral contextualism.
Yes. Perfect.
There we go. We understand it. Moral contextualism is make sure you got the right ass, right?
Just to be clear, I'm talking about the mythological Sarah.
It's not. Well, I've seen it, so I know it exists.
I think
that I haven't seen it. I'm not going off of your testament. You know.
You never will.
Look, I think we can solve all the world's problems if we just put it in the framework of someone's ass.
You could. I think you probably phrase every argument in reference to somebody's ass, right?
There we go.
The Kalam ass cosmological argument. Ontological.
How juicy does Sarah's ass look?
It's. I would say it's pretty perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a mascot.
Pictures,
it's not a mascot for arbitrary reasons, right? There's only a few handful of artifacts in the great debate community. There's the hat that Pew wears. I can't remember the name of it. There's a P900 that has a spiritual energy that I forget what they call it.
An aura?
No, what's the name?
If I push on my eye a bit, I think I can see people's auras.
That's just a chromatic aberration.
Basically, the P900, it's the god until it debunks your bullshit.
What did you ever see the wiki page on that?
I got to. I haven't.
Yeah,
I'm
Nikon
sorry.
Can my
Coolpix-
magical 8-ball be an artifact?
No, Nikon Coolpix P900. It says, although not as powerful as the Great Gray Hat of Darkness, which P Reviews hat, the Nikon P900, also known as the Truth Detector 9000, is definitely far more holy and is a clear and more cherished artifact in the observable universe. It was made by the Nikon Corporation in association with God to create the most red pill camera anyone on flat Earth has ever seen. It is bestowed with the ability to detect Freemason lizard people's diabolical schemes from miles away. And due to its stockpile of vinegar housed in extra small dimensional portals next to the image sensor, it is totally immune to the negative side effects of chemtrails on human skin tissues. That's pretty powerful. Yeah.
Wow.
I can confirm all of this because I have 2 of them.
I can confirm that chemtrails will fuck you up, man.
And the Gray Hat of Darkness.
Remember
Also
my new
called the
job,
Prophecy
Steve.
Cap.
I
What?
have to research chemtrails now. Remember my new
Remember,
job.
they're piloted by lizard people.
Yeah, lizard people. Okay, here's some trivia. Where does the Great Gray Hat of Darkness come from?
The bottom
the
pits of hell.
Man, you guys with the wiki. No, it comes from it was forged inside the supermassive black hole at the center of the NGC 1277 galaxy, approximately 220 million light years away from Earth.
But black holes are dark. They're just invisible.
Did you ever watch the video Nephilim Free? If I debated Kiros, anybody ever seen that video? No, man, I'm telling you. Okay.
I honestly don't follow that little shit stain.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that level of dumb fuckery is even worse than flat earther. However,
you got to understand. He said that the Earth ejaculated water and it impacted the moon.
But do you know what his argument against?
Wait a sec. He said the Earth ejaculated water.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's theoretically possible if you get a mountain tall enough.
What he said was that the reason why the moon has craters is because the Earth ejaculated water during the flood because of reasons. The water froze on the way there and impacted the moon with such force that it created the craters we see today.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
How does not everybody
What you
know
do
this
is you
by
take
now?
a mountain. You take a mountain, right? And you get some volcanic eruption from that mountain. All right, it erupts the water. All right, sending it to space, hitting the moon, leaving the impact.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I've done the math on this. The water wouldn't even get into space, let alone all the way to the moon.
So,
Red.
what do you
And
think?
And even if it did get into space, you'd be dealing with a giant ice sphere. You wouldn't be dealing with like water instantly freezing when it hits the moon.
All right, so
So that's how the dome was created.
So do you guys want to hear Nephilim? Back on what I was talking about. Do you want to hear what Nephilim freeze? Because we all talk about Luna Bukaki for the last freaking 4 years. It's getting a little dull. Do you want to hear his argument against Big Bang Theory? Because I don't think you've ever heard that.
Oh, please, for the love of fuck, tell me.
I'm just curious. If anybody can tell me what his argument was, it is the most classic argument I've ever heard. Okay.
An expansion in space cannot exist, so thus the Big Bang cannot exist.
This is what he would argue to Hugh Ross. The reason why the Big Bang is impossible, according to Nephilim Free, is because black holes don't explode. Just let it sink in. Let it stew in your brain there. Because black holes don't explode, the Big Bang Theory can't happen.
Dividing by -0.
Yeah.
Boy.
There's so many levels of complex stupidity there. I don't even know where to begin. Right? It's just
okay. So, but is he trying to say that the entire universe came from the core of a black hole? Is that what he's trying to get at?
I guess so. Yeah.
No.
No would be an acceptable answer. Also would be acceptable as what the fuck? Hell no, you're an idiot. Any of those.
Help me.
Yeah.
Help me, please.
Jesus,
I don't
take me now, I don't want to
understand.
live here anymore. That's my favorite.
I don't understand,
that
Steve.
one often.
I
don't understand stupidity anymore.
I don't want to live on this planet anymore. When is Elon Musk gonna make that fucking Mars rocket thing? I want to hitch a ride on that.
Yeah, he hasn't quite explained how that's going to whole work.
I want to die on Mars.
You know what? I trust him. Let's just go for it. Fuck it. We'll do it live.
We'll figure it out when we get there, right?
Yes.
So
Let's eat some potatoes, guys. That's all I can tell you.
So you would leave right now if Elon Musk said, "Hey, Reg, we want to send you to Mars." You would go?
I'd be like, pack
Oh,
your
yeah.
bags. I'm getting the fuck up out of here.
See, the correct answer would be no. I wouldn't because I love Hana and I want to stay here with her. That's the correct answer.
Well, I think she would understand.
Hana would not understand. She's a woman. Women don't understand these things.
Ooh, that's
Oh,
Wait, we're
that's a
live,
good
aren't
one.
we? Let me rephrase that.
Okay, then.
There we
Now
go.
we know.
No, you're already done. You're great.
There,
Can someone
goes my,
timestamp this part?
there goes my invite to MythCon next year.
Yeah, can
Man,
someone
it would be so magical to live on Mars.
Oh,
With
by the
the
way, you guys
people.
watched that thing on MythCon? That was great. It was Sargon.
If
And,
Elon Musk
oh my
told
God,
me,
I love
hey,
that.
listen, we understand that there's a lot of idiots here. Do you want to get off this planet? Because it's clear that you don't want to live here anymore. I would be like, absolutely. When do I fucking go?
I wouldn't do it. First of all, I have no desire to go into outer space until it's absolutely like foolproof, right? And even
Oh,
then,
I want to go on a Russian rocket right now, man.
I wouldn't want to go to. I wouldn't want to go to Mars because it's just there's no way we can survive on Mars. The chlorates would just eat through anything. There's
You
nothing
would
wrong
have
with
cancer, then your cancer would have cancer, and then there would be cancer on top
Lead
of
for breakfast, lead for dinner, lead for lunch,
I mean,
lots and lots of lead.
hey Steve, if here we have the USS Enterprise, the Next Generation edition, and you want to go traveling in the stars,
Nerd.
I might be okay with that, but that's probably not going to happen.
You see, here's the thing. Going into space has always been like a dream of mine. In fact, I'm already saving up to have one of those zero-G flights just to experience zero-G. But going to Mars, like to a whole nother planet, to essentially start fresh and be like, okay, let's make sure we don't fuck this up this time.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have much of a. I mean, the first free coloniers going to Mars is going to take several hundred years.
Elon will make it better.
I say we would finally colonize Mars in like fucking 300 years.
Is he going to spoon with you like Hana does, though?
That is a very good point.
I mean, he has the money, man. He has the money. I'd spoon with him.
I mean, he's a decent-looking guy and everything, but I mean, I don't think he has the curves that probably Hana does, at least in the right places.
Could he?
Oh, yes, he does, and that's in his pockets.
Could he make me a Hana robot powered by Tesla battery?
Oh, then go. Yeah, just go.
Just go. Okay.
Just go.
Got
yeah.
it.
I mean, you could even program it to say, like your favorite phrases and stuff, like "Reds, you're the smartest person I know," or "Reds, you're just an ugly fuck." Anything.
Red, you have such a big cock.
Well.
Well, that just killed the hangout.
Yeah, really.
Anybody?
I
got nothing.
Where are my facepalm protection ovens?
So, Steve, would you be comfortable going in space if they perfected cybergenetic freezing?
No, I don't want to be frozen.
Well, you wouldn't know you're frozen.
I think I would.
Well, in all fairness, Steve, you got to give Elon credit. They have just landed. They did 2 launches recently. SpaceX did, one in California, one in Cape Canaveral. Both of them were landings on a drone ship. Both were 100% successful. Right in the fucking middle.
No, I'm not worried about that so much. I actually be more concerned actually exposed to space than I would be like dying on reentry. That'd be pretty quick, I think.
Yeah.
Like the cryogenic. Do you guys remember a story called The Jaunt by Stephen King?
Oh, is this going like Lost?
You guys need to read stuff, man. I mean,
Why is Stephen King your go-to?
Because I like Stephen King. I read I like every one of his books at one time. To my sister threw them out. I mean,
Okay, look, I'm not saying Stephen King isn't a good author, but science fiction isn't really his forte.
Anything you can come up with, Stephen King has thought of it. Okay, so let me tell my story. So
Stephen
the jaunt is a story about this transportation that goes from one place to another, but it's very, very far away, and it does so going through this wormhole, but it experienced a very large period of time, so you have to sleep through it. So you take this pill, it knocks you out to this coma, and you don't experience the time differential, because it may be like a minute to get there in real time, but in this wormhole it can take several millions of years, but you don't age, right? You age at a much slower rate. And there's this kid who doesn't take the pill, and he experiences like several eons, like millions and billions of years of time travel, and he ends up coming out the end with all a bunch of gray hair and just, obviously mentally vacuous. I mean, he's a zombie. He has what's they call when you have schizotypical personality break, where they call it dissociative episode, a fugue state. And that's how I envision me going into a cryogenic thing, that I'm actually awake the entire time, and I come out the other side, in a fugue state. I don't want to do that.
So it wouldn't be like Lost in Space, where you're not conscious through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I have fucked up dreams. That would be hard to go through. All that time with my dreams. Fuck.
And I would imagine it's like kind of just like prolonged anesthetics. Like you don't even know you're dreaming. You're just like asleep till you arrive.
How do you know you're not doing that now?
Oh boy, the
Shut up, Red.
Come on,
Red.
We're going down.
I don't think that. I don't buy that argument. I think it's a crap argument myself.
We are going down this rabbit hole, people.
Well, I'm here. I'm destroying the hangout, so.
You have an effect on Hangouts. So, hey, did you guys watch? This will change it up a little bit. Did you guys watch my obliteration of that fuckwad Eric Wolfenbitten Joel?
We were, myself and Hana were watching that while banging our faces against the desk. So thank you very much.
Oh
for
God,
that.
phrasing again, phrasing. All I heard was Hannah and I were watching that while banging, and that my brain
Our
stopped
head
at that
against
point.
the desk. I'm
That's
sorry.
what I'm saying, phrasing. Some visuals I don't want
Kinky.
to. Yeah, I don't want to have in my head. Very limited space up there as it is. I don't want to pollute it. So
Sure. I mean, we made
You know you watched that on Pornhub, Steve. You watched the
Oh, if they
video.
put a video
Everyone's
out,
seen
I'm
the video.
downloading it in 4K, motherfucker. I don't care.
Oh well, of course you would know we filmed in 4K, of course.
Yeah, I got to be. I would expect no less, dude. If you put a 720p porn out, I'm just gonna just lose my.
I know you're just gonna unsubscribe from me instantaneously.
Yeah.
Hey, Red, make sure to send me that link, by the way.
Yeah, that's just disrespectful to Hana to only put it in 720p.
720p. Oh my God!
I want to see them pimples on the ass.
Yep, and there we go. My ass is.
You want to see my pimples, Steve?
Not really, no.
Oh, mine's on my shaft.
Yeah, that's just You gotta look. You gotta raise your level of humor. I mean, it needs work. Trust me. You gotta be funny like Reds and I. It's an art form. We've practiced it for many years and many times together.
I got Bud Light, and I don't give a damn.
We've done a lot of things together, actually, Red. and I.
Yeah. We've had a few private moments.
Many a few. Yeah.
Duct tape was
I
involved.
only had one private moment with Steve, and it was magical. I think about it every night.
Yeah, not never happening.
Come on, Steve.
No.
You know, I just want to pull those Jew curls.
Reds, you not so much.
I just want to pull those Jew
And
curls.
with Reds,
Come
it'd
on.
be strictly a grudge thing, anyways. I mean, it would be no attraction to him whatsoever. It'd just be like, hey, I'm fucking Reds. That's all. You gotta appreciate that, right?
Yes.
Okay. He's not. Yeah, I mean, I don't want him to get hurt by that. I mean, there'd be no emotional thing to it or nothing.
Nope.
Yeah, okay. See, he understands. He doesn't mind being
totally.
involved with that.
It's all good.
And we had such a nice conversation at the beginning of this hangout. What happened?
Yeah. Well, what happened was I showed up.
It was just a culmination of events. But anyways, that guy Wolfman, he put out another video out, and he put another video out how he just totally destroyed me. And I'm like, oh. That's what Neffy does, and all the rest of it is like, they get their ass handed, and they're like, oh, look at this, we won this. It's like Ronnie won his debate, G-Man won his debate. It's like the total bizarre world where they think that they're actually winning when they literally get decimated.
It's just
Actually,
confirmation
not literally,
bias,
like
dude.
10%. They actually got like 90% decimated.
It's just
Or
confirmation bias.
I think it's just delusion. I just think it's pure delusion.
Could be.
I mean, nobody could
s-
watch that hangout and go, yeah, this guy was clearly understanding what you were talking about, Steve.
Steve, I got a question. When's that hangout with Christian Hillbilly?
That is tomorrow, 2:00 Pacific time. My channel will be
Okay.
there. And
Will I be
anybody
able to
wants to
get a
come in,
link to that?
yeah, I'll get everybody in here. But the problem is, it might be pre-ordered. I know a lot of people, probably about 30, already want to come in, and I'm only going to have the 10-man room. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Can I slide you some money underneath the table to get
you can
that
slide me money for
reservation?
anything. I have PayPal. I have Cash Me. I don't take bribes for anything, so like you don't get special privileges.
Nah. It's just
Well, a little bit. Patreons do get a
reservation.
little bit more. Patreons get special. They
Well,
get.
by the way, unlike Steve, I totally take bribes. By the way, the more you pay me, the better the bribe.
Yeah, good point.
So,
Okay.
so we can talk business later. All I'm saying is you get that.
Yeah,
check
make sure you know we're live. Okay. I got you.
You got this. I'll send you my PayPal details.
Yeah,
Okay.
this guy Wolfen Blitzen, I've run into him before. You guys probably don't remember because this was way back in 2015. But I'm pretty sure it was my channel. But he came on and he said he could debunk evolutionary theory in under 1 minute.
Oh,
This
yippee!
intrigued me. And I was like, okay, you can debunk evolution in 1 minute. You know what? Here's the floor. Do you want to know his arguments?
Let me put my argument out first. 1 minute. I only need 10 seconds. The devil made those fossils. There is no evolution. It's the devil trying to trick your brain.
I would say that's probably on the same level, but that's not what he said. His arguments were one, Reds especially, don't hurt yourself on this one.
Oh, jeez.
He said, yeah, the evidence against evolution is that the theory of evolution is not proven. Yeah. Let it all out. Let it all out. It only hurts for a while. And then the other reason he gave was there's no transitional fossils.
I want to take this guy to the Natural History Museum that they have in New York and just beat him over the fucking head with it.
Yeah.
Somehow.
And by the way, I will say this for fairness. He has suffered a stroke, but this was a long time ago. He's been this way for several years. This stroke was not the cause of his being a dumb shit. It's just not. So I'm not going to let him have that as an excuse. And he doesn't apply it as an excuse. He doesn't use it. He might slur a little bit every occasionally, but there's no excuse for that level of dumb fuckery.
My grandfather had 8 strokes and around 4 heart attacks. He's nowhere near that level. It's nothing to do with the stroke.
Yeah. But
So it's one of those be a dumb fuck by choice, not disability.
It is a dumb fuck by choice. Yes, absolutely. Well, tomorrow, Reds, like I said, Hillbilly gets to tell us why, there's no such thing as atheist.
Oh, great. I would love to hear how there's no such thing as atheist from a raging homophobe.
By the way, can you
Hey, I almost got Hillbilly to admit that slavery is a good thing.
Well, according to his God, it is. But
yeah, I know.
What are you available tomorrow too, Reds? Or are you gonna be busy?
I work tomorrow, unfortunately, so I have to catch an early flight out of here, unfortunately, and then I have to go to work at like 2:30 Eastern, so I probably won't be available.
Bummer.
I'll be watching.
If there's a God, Reds, your plane will be delayed. I just want you to know that. I'll pray for that for you. I'm gonna pray that Red's plane is delayed.
I'm just gonna pray that his flight actually still works and that aerodynamics is still a thing.
Yeah.
Because man, when I'm telling you, when that aerodynamic shit stops working, you're in deep doo-doo.
Let's just hope those fuckers at Boeing actually had their shit together when they made my plane.
When God breathes in, you're not gonna have nowhere to fly in, boy.
Well, it is true. Statistically speaking, flying is by far the safest form of travel.
And also the fastest, especially when you're trying to commute between Florida and New York. Like, holy fuck.
Isn't that hard to
17
believe?
hours.
Oh yeah, I'd much rather fly than drive. But isn't that hard to believe that flying? I mean, it's just a magnificent thing getting that size of a plane off the ground and landing it, and it's all done so smoothly, like it's nothing anymore.
It's all CGI. Can't you understand this, Steve?
There's a movie I just watched recently. Did you guys ever see a movie called the guys at oh my god, what was it? It was called 222. Ever heard of it?
2022. Yeah, I've heard of it. It's like some doomsday movie.
No, it's not a doomsday movie. It's just the guy's an aircraft controller who narrowly has these
Oh, I'm
planes.
thinking of
coming in.
2020. Never mind.
No, it's called 222. It's the time. It's one of those movies that starts off like this is going to be good, and then like a quarter of the way through, because it had awesome graphics, and it was an air traffic controller, and these like the planes are coming in, and he's handling it like awesome, and it was awesome. And then seriously, like 25 minutes into the movie or half hour into the movie, it was like somebody rewrote the whole story and said, you know what, we're scrapping all this. Let's go this route. That makes absolutely no sense. And then another halfway through, somebody else came in and said, hey, I'm going to do another rewrite to something that makes absolutely even least sense. It was the most horrific piece of shit that I've ever seen. And it sucked because the first 25 minutes, I'm like, this is going to be good. So if you ever watch that movie 222, remember what I said, and let's see if that's your what you guys think happened.
Sounds terrible. I think I'll get
somebody said in the live chat that I inspired them to make their own channel. That's interesting. Attila the One. In all seriousness, it's guys like McRae that inspired me to go ahead and start my own channel. I'm looking forward to starting the output of my content soon. Awesome. Start your own channel. What is going to be on, Attila? I'll help.
Pornhub.
It's Pornhub. You can't do that on YouTube, dude.
That's why it's on Pornhub.
No, but he's putting a channel on YouTube.
No, I'm creating my channel on Pornhub.
That's what he says. I also started watching. Well, actually, I finished the first season. You guys watch American Gods? No.
Nope.
You guys just have nothing in common with me. How do I know you people?
Well, you see, Steve, you have no life like me.
Series of events.
What's that, Reds?
A very unfortunate series of events.
That is probably true. Yeah, how I came about years ago was very unfortunate and strange. Oh well. Anyways,
hey, Steve, I got a question.
You have a lot of questions. I want answers.
Oh, all right, fine. Ask me a question. Ask me a question then.
I can't think of a damn thing.
Exactly.
What's your question?
Now shut up.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting with bated breath and anticipation.
All right, so let's say AI gets to the point where we can put it in video games like actual AI. Would it be morally wrong to kill an artificially intelligent being within a game?
Does the artificial intelligence have sentience?
Yes, it is
Then
sentient.
yes, I think so.
But there's 1,000 other games with that creature in it. The exact same creature.
I think I personally, like, yeah, there's no right or wrong stuff sometimes, right? I think I want to treat something the way I want to be treated. And if I think that thing could have things like empathy, pain, ability to mourn, ability to feel remorse, guilt, things like that. If I think there's an actual sentient being there, I'm going to treat it as such, regardless if it is or isn't.
Let me try a different example that's somewhat similar. Suppose you meet a child, but in advance that you know this child is going to be the next Hitler, basically. It's going to start World War III, and it's going to commit...
I'd blow his head off.
Murder. Huh?
I'd blow his head off.
But it's a child. You're violating its chance.
Doesn't matter if it's if you see, this is here's the conditions. If you make the conditions such that there could be no other way, then you have no choice but to act in accordance to those conditions. So if the child you know for a fact is going to grow up and have millions of deaths, I think it's justifiable to end his life.
But here's the thing, right?
You're punishing him for a crime he hasn't committed yet.
But it doesn't matter. There's already been a hard deterministic outcome. I'm not judging him for the crime that he's done. He's crime that he will do, which is a fact. It's preventative. If you know somebody's going to go ahead and rob a bank tomorrow, do you have an obligation to try to stop them?
Well,
Steve, what you do is you pull him out of his house and home, right? You pull him out of his household, you rehabilitate the individual, and you place him somewhere new.
That
By
can't
pulling
happen.
them out of the household
No.
is what
That's
creates
not
a
the condition.
psychological
Look a pig.
fuck up.
Look a pig.
What?
That's not the conditions. He already had a hard deterministic outcome. You can't change the parameters. The outcome will happen. That is a fact. That was the conditions of a statement.
Yeah, but you know that it's a fact, but you can still rewrite time.
No, it doesn't work that way. I mean, then obviously it wasn't hard determinism. Yeah, I think you're missing the concept here. That
No, I wasn't
Immutable
paying
Destiny
attention to
was
half
doing.
of it.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I hate it when my determinism gets flaccid.
No shit. At our age, that's a concern, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And this is why we lost half our audience. But that's okay. Now I forget.
I
what
thought it
was
was just
gonna say.
scaring them off.
No,
Yeah,
I
I
was
thought
going
it was where
to
I
go
joined.
somewhere with that before Immutable Destiny asked me a question, but I guess it wasn't important.
And also, the connection here is about to just go to complete shit. So I'm going to head out now. So peace out, people.
Yeah, I'm about to head out too. I got to go eat dinner, and I'm going to watch Supernatural tonight. Actually, yes.
Hey, Shadow.
Not a new show.
I was just going to ask you where you fucking find these winners, Steve.
Oh, they find me, dude. Well, see, Eric, that guy, like I said, he's found us before, and he's been stalking my Facebook page for a while. Jim's been stalking my Facebook page, but I didn't realize that was Christian Hillbilly. I didn't put two and two together. I should have known.
Oh, Christian Hillbilly. Okay, now I know who you're. Okay, yeah, I didn't realize that either.
How do you guys? Does anybody in the live chat not remember Christian Hillbilly, the homophobic, bigoted piece of shit?
I almost interact with him daily. It's fun.
He's a cock.
That's why I'm excited for when I join and he sees me. He's instantly gonna throw a fit.
I'm sorry, man, but I've got to say that you should really stop insulting shit. It does not deserve that kind of comparison.
Shit's never done anything bad to me, but anyways, no, I usually I treat my guests pretty decently, right? But I mean, I am so disgusted with people like Christian Hillbilly. He's such a morally reprehensible human being that
but he thinks he's the most moral being alive.
Yeah, it's
Like,
just disgusting. He's the kind of person that thinks like gays should be put to death because the Bible says so. That kind of level. I have no compunctions to say I have no respect.
You know, he used to be an atheist. That's what he claims.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he used to be an
But he's
atheist,
just
but
stupid. I mean, you cannot have a conversation with him because he's fucking stupid.
If somebody doesn't understand the nuance of what the term atheist means, how much credit can you put in them claiming to have been one?
Well, you've got to remember, according to him, atheists don't exist.
Steve, what's your definition of truth?
Claiming that atheists don't exist and then claiming that he was a former atheist, how does that make sense? That's even worse.
Try to wrap your head around it.
well, hold on. Maybe he
Truth comports with reality.
Maybe he could have been an atheist, but then after he converted, I don't know.
No, he would just say that he was an atheist, but he wasn't always he wasn't ever an atheist, true atheist because he had God on his heart, or whatever the hell it was. But I have
No. The story he told me that that he was an atheist. He tried to disprove evolution to his uncle, who was a drunkard at one point, but then found God. That story was just so full of. I was like,
no. Other people asked about that too. That you look at I remember that in Nadi's room. I think somebody asked him about his prior history, and I do remember his conversion or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, right? To say that atheists don't exist when he was once an atheist.
Come on, those words weren't coming out of his mouth. You know where they were coming from. Let's be honest here.
Steve, listen. You know God exists in your heart. You cannot say you're an atheist.
Well, that's why. Well, I'm not an atheist either way, but that's why I invited Kenny. Kenny Rose.
Exactly, because it's in your heart. You truly know God is there.
Kenny Rose understands Romans exceptionally well, and he actually is a theist who says Romans is not directed toward everybody. Is not saying that all people know God exists. That's a complete bastardization. That's from a PhD theist that says
that actually, you don't need to go to like a theist to find out what that book's written out. about her, who it's written to, or what have you, because at the beginning of the fucking book, there's a lovely little paragraph that explains it.
Yeah, I mean, he's writing a letter to Corinth, right, in Rome.
Well, there's a church in Rome that they've been having a conflict, and the conflict has been essentially about who are the inheritors of the kingdom of heaven, kind of thing. And you have the former Jews and the former Gentiles fighting over it. And there was a lot of people that had gone in there that were preaching weird fucking doctrines that had nothing to do with Christianity, including temple prostitution.
Yeah,
what God is this, and how do I worship him?
Yeah, he was telling them basically, you guys have known this stuff. You guys know God exists. How they apply that to somehow like everybody, that makes no sense. I mean, what kind of God would say, "Hey, yeah, you know, all you guys know I exist, but you know, you don't believe that I exist." Well, if we know you exist and not believe you exist, that's a contradiction.
The treatment of that book is just so fucked up to begin with, because if you actually look at the Koine Greek, where it's talking about prostitution, about sexuality, it's talking about temple prostitutes. It's not talking about homosexuality.
Well, you can join us tomorrow. I mean, like I said, it's going to be a fun event. I'm looking forward to talking to Tony a little bit. Tony's looking forward to this. He wants to rip him apart a little bit.
Yeah, I do. Oh,
no,
wait,
not
the other Tony.
Yeah,
Never
the
mind.
other Tony, the one that actually has a channel, Tony. The one that's
Man, that hurt, man. We had to go deep.
Hey, were you on the Geek Room the other night?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that sounded familiar.
Hey, Steve, I got a question for you.
Tito Leibowitz was there. I'm in Tampa
A lot
right
of
now.
questions, Look a Pig.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of questions. Oh, Look a Pig. Ask
Okay, if we learned anything from Eric, you're supposed to ask him a question and then interrupt him every time he tries to answer.
I got 2 sentences out once, I think, in that whole discussion when he asked me something.
All right, Steve. So, the morals of porn.
Yeah, I haven't figured out anybody to debate you. Sorry.
Come on, it's been a month.
I done my job.
Yes, it is.
How much you gonna get? How much you gonna give the man? His time ain't cheap.
Wait, are you
I'll be your man.
trying to do pro porn? Are you trying to do pro porn, anti porn, what?
Pro porn mostly.
Well, there's going to be a problem with finding somebody to take the anti position that isn't just being hypocritical then, because they did a poll a while ago in Canada to try and figure out what percentage of the males in Canada actually watched porn, and they found it was 100%. So
someone have to find a female then. So
I
most likely an
guess so.
SJW.
No, they were 100% too.
Well, try to hunt down Annika Spirian or somebody like sorry, wait, who am I thinking of? Sorry. Never mind. No, she'd actually be able to give you a good conversation. Who am I thinking of? Anita Sarkeesian, thank you. That is who I was trying to think of at the time. Yeah, try to see if you can get her into an argument and challenge her to a debate.
Okay. Can I use the good name of the great debate community when I get into this argument?
No, you can't.
Let's settle this on the great debate community.
No, you're not using the great debate for that. So let me ask you.
Damn it.
How much money do you think Anita Sarkeesian would make if she got into porn?
Honestly,
$750,000.
Think she'd make more or less?
I think people would pay money to not see her do porn.
That's a fair point.
Depends if it's interactive. Never mind.
No, dude, because she'd be complaining the entire time about how she's being treated while getting paid for it.
That's why I think she could make a killing. She could actually make a porn with the entire time bitching about it.
Yeah, she could
It would be the most unwatchable, unfathomable shit ever.
She could complain her way to some big money.
No, seriously, it'd be totally unfathomable, but it would be totally unfathomable, but it would get views.
Well, here's the question. I don't actually pay enough attention to her. Is she actually straight or not?
Who?
Anita Sarkeesian.
She's straight.
I think she's
straight until
she's
the money
asexual.
says she's not straight.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's straight then.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh yeah, that would be the worst fucking porn ever. Oh my gosh, she'd be complaining that there weren't enough women in it, and then complain that she doesn't go that way. Yeah, that'd be horrendous.
Lacey Green's cute.
Yeah, where's the
that would be a
female
good
fluffers? Where's the female fluffers at?
Yeah. Yeah, she would find some way to make it very
Lacey
erotic.
Green has amazing dick sucking lips. I just have to say.
Cute. She's cute.
That is scientific. That is scientific right there. You can measure it.
The person who I am in the PlayStation party just heard me say that, said I have to agree.
Yeah,
Dated a girl
see,
was
Lamed,
real
he
much
Lamed
better.
said that said he would watch some Circassian porn. I think that'd be a whole genre. I think there's money to be made there. Circassian porn.
No,
Yeah.
just no.
Just
Just-
throwing out
just no.
opportunities. I'm not doing this, so people take my ideas and run with them if you feel like it.
For the first time in porn industries, you would have an anti-porn campaign.
Oh my God! Wait, no. It'd be great. You make a horror flick out of it.
A horror porn flick.
A horror porn flick featuring Anita Sarkeesian. Anytime somebody whipped their shit out to try to get near her with it, would just freeze and fall off in some horrendously gory way.
Or she can just scream.
She'd be the penis killer.
Yeah, man, has potential.
Goes around with a little hacksaw and a corkscrew, hacking off people's dicks and trying to screw vaginas in
It's a little
between
Evil
there.
Deadish, but it has
Yeah. Why not? Well, other than that, she doesn't have Ash's personality, you know. But hey,
Do we have a
not
good
everyone
picture
can.
of Lacey Green's ass for science?
No.
Bare or not?
It doesn't have to be bare. It could be bikini shot. It doesn't matter.
Nah, I don't have one then.
Damn
When
it.
did
Bear?
this hangout start, Steve?
And
3 hours
incidentally,
ago.
I'm jokingly
3
implying that I
hours
have
ago.
one, but I don't. No.
Yeah, we already finished the whole Joe Brad and Jim Hill thing. That was fun. I think
pitches ago.
Jim actually enjoyed the conversation. He seems like a nice guy. He wants to learn these things, but he's just at a very, very basic level. Like we're talking elementary school at best.
Wow, that's like shapes
Yeah,
and colors.
yeah, he might know the difference between a triangle and a square kind of thing. Yeah,
Well, it's geometry, I
Yeah.
think.
I do believe it is. Yeah.
It's science, baby.
Anything higher than that, we need to get hog tie.
Right. What's beyond a circle?
Look at that sexy beard.
Well, beyond circles are spheres, and beyond spheres are what you call hyperspheres, which are extremely
Mind
complicated.
blown.
And the only way you can get into a hypersphere is to actually click on a hyperlink.
So let me get.
Never mind.
I've
So
seen
let me
those
guess
on the dark web.
Let me do this in my head.
Goes right to my favorite site.
Let me do this in my head. Square,
Carry it.
cube, hypercube. Actually, you
Where
know
you
what?
hypercube
It'd be line.
yourself?
Actually, it's line squared, cube, hypercube. Actually, it's point line square, cube, hypercube. Yeah, there's 5 dimensions. So try that one out.
I don't know. Like I lost
Dun,
you at
dun,
the
dun.
second sentence.
Element said, "Did you see that Wolf removed all the comments from his video?" Oh yeah. I checked it out. He's a coward.
What happened with you? Wait. What did I miss? What? Whoa. You mean Wolf?
No, wolf bitten.
Oh, okay. My bad. I jumped to conclusions.
You did.
No, it's the one that
Well-
Wolf bit. Apparently, he turned him into a were jackass.
And by the way, there are 2 wolves in the community.
That's what I was thinking.
So there's the geek room, which is Frankie, and then there's Wolf King.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying randomly. I don't know.
It's okay.
Mr.
I'm
Discord.
not specifying anything.
Did you guys ever see the movie Hypercube? The first one was Cube, and then it was Cube 2, and then Hypercube.
I saw Cube. I didn't see Hypercube.
Oh, they're good.
I've only heard of Cube.
I've
I
seen
didn't
both
even
of them.
know they did sequels.
There's 3 of them.
Yeah, this Cube is huge.
It was awesome. That's like one of my. I'm not into horror movies. Like I hated Saw movies. It's just creepy.
What?
The first one was
How
okay,
can you hate
but
Saw? That
because
was
I don't like
elegant.
gory. Gore's not my thing. Horror's fine, but gore's not my thing. I think it's disgusting. But
Hostel scared me, man. Hostel messed me up.
what was it called?
I don't like the occasional slasher, but there are certain movies that are just like, okay, this is just like gore to fap to. What the hell's the
Yeah,
point?
no, I mean, like I like if I'm gonna listen to if I'm gonna watch gore, Evil Dead, man, that's my type of gore.
Oh, Evil Dead. That's a shit.
that's
That movie
that's
is
awesome,
amazing.
right? Yeah, I love
And
it.
if I want buckets of blood, I'm going to watch a fucking trauma film.
Yeah, Trauma. Yes, the Toxic Avenger. I used to watch
Yeah.
that.
The Toxic Avenger. I do
Oh
remember
yeah, Toxic Avenger.
Kabuki Samurai. There's a whole bunch
Yeah,
of them.
I'd like pray. I'm like, oh, I think they're gonna show boobs. Every Toxic
People are asking
Avenger.
for okay. The video that we're talking about is on Wolf's channel, but it's Wolf and Blitzen's channel, Eric Joel, but it's actually on mine as well. I uploaded it.
Yeah,
But mine,
you
I'm not deleting any comments. So if you think I sucked, fine. I don't care. I
Hey,
don't delete
Steve,
mine.
the other day that debate little conversation you had with whatever that dude's name was last week, that was impressive. That was good. I
Who was
enjoyed
that?
it. I don't know, the dude you did last week, like the guy that wasn't down with philosophy.
Huh.
Isn't that like everyone he talks to?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm,
pretty
yeah,
much. But last week
narrow
you
the
had like a
parameter here, man.
well, you put it online. You put it on your page.
I most of the time do. Yeah, yeah. Again,
I
not.
forget his name. It wasn't Tex. It was what the hell was his name? Yeah, Richard. My daughter said Richard.
Was it Jim Hill?
Well, last week was it Jim Hill? I don't know, man. I've been drinking way too many beers.
The guy that he thought he was like, I think you're wrong, Steve, and I want to have a discussion with you.
Yeah, and you were
Isn't
talking
that
about-
everyone you talk to, Steve?
Okay,
Yeah,
we
for
were
real.
more of a one-on-one.
You put it online last week.
Yeah, it had to be Jim, I think.
Oh, Jimbo.
Well, anyways, you liked it?
It was good. Like, I'm too intoxicated to tell you exactly the high points that I enjoyed the most. But
I happen to like the conversation I had with Eric. I was like, what the fuck, man?
oh yeah, Eric. That's what I'm talking about, Eric.
Oh, that
Yeah,
one.
That was
Okay,
the older
yeah.
dude, right?
Yeah.
And then you, it was you and the younger dude, and then
Yeah.
Eric.
I should go to his channel at some point and see if I've been blocked yet. I kind of posted a "you're a dumbass bitch" comment there, but I did it by citing Bible verses.
Yeah, fair
There
enough.
you go.
Sarah thinks I'm wrong. We should talk. Sarah, you want one-on-one time with me? Oh, you get one-on-one
Is that
time.
Sarah, or is that Maxwell in it? What's
Yeah,
his
that's
name?
Max's Sarah.
Yeah.
That's big ass Sarah, is what
Don't
I've heard.
Don't you walk lightly with my Sarah.
Yeah, tread lightning, son.
Tread
Don't
lightly.
worry, we can double tap her, Steve. It's okay.
Oh, tread lightly.
Oh, that
There
hurt.
are other people
I'm
in this.
treading lightly.
There's other
You
people
know,
here.
you get bottom, I get top. I'm okay with that.
I'm not
Wonderland
held
song.
accountable for their actions.
I've never liked Alice in Wonderland more than when I. Never mind. Sarah knows.
Sarah knows. Sarah knows a lot.
Wonderland song.
Yeah, we're not. But see, here's the thing: we can't tell people that Sarah's actually smart and that she like is actually knows about what we're talking about. We can't tell people that she has this online persona that she's just an ass, and I mean that not in the emotional like I'm an asshole. That I'm just like she's an ass, like physically an ass. That's it. That's all there's to her.
Yes, there's a percentage for sure. Sarah
Yeah,
rocks though. You got some good fans. I'll tell you that much.
I have the best fans. I'm serious. We have such a
like, hey man, you got the best friends, man.
we have an
I love
eclectic
you,
group.
man. You know I love you.
I mean, I get like 100 people watching, sometimes much more. I mean, that's awesome for only 3K
Have you
channel.
ever noticed that every YouTuber has the best fans? Isn't that weird how that works?
No, they lie. YouTubers lie.
Of course, I used to have the worst fans because I used to be followed by Anon on the old channel. Christ.
Oh God, that would drive me nuts.
Yeah, I actually had to do 2 different campaigns to try to drive them off the fucking channel. Christ.
But Shadow, here's the thing: there are YouTubers out there that don't do Hangout style, right? My channel is primarily Hangout, so I do have some original videos, but they don't like this type of format because one, they don't think well on their think well on their think. I'm drunk too. Think well on their feet, and they don't know the topics as well as I think that they think they do. Right? This form is hard. This is not an easy medium to get right into, right, and jump into and say, oh, I want to be in the Rage community. I'm going to jump into Hangouts and I'm explaining my position, and everybody's going to think I'm really smart. And yeah, it doesn't quite work that way. And so when I say that I have great people, I mean that because they come in and they're willing to do that. And that to me is a hallmark of having a great viewer, a great subscriber, a great friend, or
I don't know, man. I mean, Hangouts versus actual produced videos. I can't say that Hangouts are harder. I just can't.
Okay. Let me rephrase that. No, producing a video is very, very difficult, right? I'm not correlating those. I'm not trying to say there's a relationship between the difficulty between one or the other. I'm just saying that people make videos. Not all of them can do this style. Just like not all of us can make videos, right? It's just
fair.
I think we're good at. Is that better?
Yeah. Well, okay. A lot of people can't competently do this style.
Oh yeah.
But of the means of producing videos, this is technically, I'd say, the simplest in a lot of ways.
Probably. Yeah. No, I'm not going to deny that. But it's also I'll say this though: it's the simplest in a lot of ways, but it's also the easiest to get fucked over by because everything you're saying is being recorded.
Well,
And
yeah,
it's in
anything
perpetuity.
live is a freaking bitch and a half. Yeah.
Right. And I don't delete videos, right? I've only had to delete like 1 or 2 videos, and that's only for censorship reasons. 'cause
Yeah, I've had to
flagged.
do that a couple times too. Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, what I say stays in perpetuity. So.
And there's kind of a weird thing with that, which is, and I've been on here for ages. You have an idea of how many fucking shuffles I've ran and what have you.
Oh yeah.
Been here since '08 for fuck's sake. I'm almost on my 10th year on here for fuck's sake. There are a lot of things that I said during year 1 and 2 that I certainly don't agree with anymore.
They called you.
But the
They
problem
called
is,
you the old gods.
but people will be like, haha, well, you said such and such in '09. I'm like, dude, I've changed my fucking opinion on that. What the hell? Well, you're contradicting yourself. No, dude, this is years later. People change their views, motherfucker.
Oh, that would drive me even. Yeah.
Drives
Wow.
me insane.
Especially when it comes to the topics we talk about, right? Because I mean, next week I might be a moral relativist. Who the hell knows? These are not hard and fast positions. Let me tell you.
There was roughly a 2-year time period that I was referring to myself as a Gnostic atheist.
Well, I mean, okay, dude. How long did I refer to myself as a agnostic, atheistic, semi-theological, and cognitivist?
Yeah.
But now I've actually worked past that. I have dropped the semi-theological and cognitivist because I think that you can now apply truth and false propositional truth values to God questions. So that's no longer on the table.
Now, in my case, I've gotten fights with people because people will try to be, well, you're an igtheist, aren't you? I'm like, no, I'm an agnostic. There's a difference. Because I do not take that as a theological position. I take it as a knowledge position.
Okay, yeah, that's fine, whatever. Yeah.
Because to me, it's just, I don't know what the fuck would even constitute a god, and until I do, but that's the thing is that in my particular view of it, it's like, the question is, what would constitute a god? What would a god be? I don't know. Can you offer something that makes sense to me? And nothing has so far.
Yeah, no, I get that, but see, the only problem I have with that is that you can go to sources like the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. They give a pretty detailed explanation of what would be a well-defined deity, such as an omnitheist position. And if they can use that omnitheist position to build argumentations from that, called like the low prior argument, then I think that most people should at least go, okay, I may not fully understand this, but let's just work with it in order to have a discussion. Because if you say you're a true ichtheist, you can never ever talk about the great debate question. It wouldn't make sense to you. You wouldn't even be able to even start the conversation.
Well, that's that's theological non-cog more so.
No, that's not. That's ichtheist. The theological non-cog is even worse. The ichtheist says that they don't know what the God means, right? The theological non-cog says there's not even a proposition there.
And that right there is why when I got an argument with Matt Bell about this ages ago, he basically, after insisting that I wasn't agnostic, he said, okay, fine, you're agnostic-ish, because I don't go full balls to the wall with that position, because I have vague criterion as to what would have to be there for me to consider something to be a god. But my view of that doesn't agree with anyone else's, and this is kind of a branch off from my former Gnostic view.
No, I get that actually, because look, if you take agnosticism and you apply it to God concepts, not necessarily God as a whole, but what is the Trinity? What is homostatic union? What is all these weird phrases they attach to God that Matt Slick loves to ramble out, I don't think they really make much sense.
Listen, Steve,
can you tell me what hypostatic union is?
Well, no, I can't. But what I was going to say,
nobody can. Don't worry.
What I was going to say
Steve,
though is
I have your answer.
Part of my issue is that I studied Spiritism when I was quite young, and the notion of some of the more ancient beliefs as to what gods were and how they came to be and this kind of stuff. And when I look back on that and look at what people are talking about in terms of gods now, I'm like, yeah, y'all are fucking weird, and these Christians are following a fairy. I don't fucking get it.
Well, I think what's happened is on YouTube, modern Christianity is having the same problem that new atheism is having. They're falling prey to this very basal type of argumentation that they hear being parroted by fruit on the ground theists. Just like atheists are parroting shit they find from fruit on the ground atheists, right? And so I think the conversation level is going to shit because now both groups are just being idiotic. They just don't.
Shit, I don't have any more.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I
We
used
all
to
know
have
shitty
3
arguments
tuna
when we hear them
cans.
by now. You've
I
been
used to
around
have
10
3
years.
tuna cans here that I'd ripped the labels off of, turned them around backwards, and written common theological argument names on them, like like ontological argument, etc. And I'd hold them up as my prop for for canned arguments. But yeah.
Well, I mean, they're not okay. Look it. I mean, I'm going to go on a limb here and say, look it. These are not like fruit on the ground arguments. The ontological argument is a nuanced argument, and although I don't think it's sound per se, it's not like it's that shitty of an argument. People think that it's a crap argument. It's really not. If you really look at the nuances.
No. Hang on. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. We have argument canneries, and YouTube's kind of like the core of the cannery of arguments. Now, they're not just arguments, but they're counter arguments. So somebody approaches you with, say, tag, for example, and you have your canned reply to it. And you give them the canned reply when you don't think they're worth your time to discuss. That's what those cans are
so
for.
It's more of a robotic interaction at that point. I know what he's going to say. He's know what I'm going to say, rather than an organic discussion.
And that's what the majority of these are, is because we generally don't get into the nuance. Somebody just like, well, what about throw out argument from design? It's like, okay, well, I don't find that compelling for these reasons, and we're not going to get into the nuts and bolts. We're just going to go, oh, give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need a designer, and assuming that it's a actual entity that's designing as opposed to natural forces is just kind of silly. And then at that point, you've dismissed them, and you're not having a discussion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And
Hey, Steve, I have a question.
You and your questions. I'm having a conversation with Shadow. What?
Okay.
I haven't talked to Shadow in ages. He actually is somebody that I enjoy having discussions with because he's been.
I've actually been kind of hiding.
He's not an idiot. What's that, Shadow?
I've been hiding for a while. The stroke damage has been acting up a little bit. I've been a bit of an idiot lately.
About you. I always make sure you're okay. I want to make sure you're okay. No, I'm just fucking with you. Looking for. Go ahead. What?
Okay. Could God be an alien?
I don't know how to parse that question out appropriately, to be honest with you, because
could humans' view of God be an alien?
Yeah, if God's
whatever God you worship,
then your meaning of the word God has been diminished to the point there that it has no real value anymore, any real meaning.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. If something is godlike in comparison to us, it does not a God make.
Right. So even if it was a naturalistic alien that created everything, I would not personally. This is just me. I would recognize it as a godlike being, but I don't consider that to be a god. Unless
I just mean like the stories we have of God is just an alien that's came to this earth, ejaculated on the land, and then life grew from that.
I'm going to argue with that based upon what we know about the Bible. I'm going to give a really, really quick rundown of a little bit of a case that I've been building over the course of the years. Now, initially, when God's asked his name, he says, I am that I am, which is a way of evading the question, not giving his actual name. Now, in classical Spiritism, a spirit would never tell you its name because if you knew its name, you would have power over it. So this shows that this is your standard garden variety of spiritual entity. But then you move on to the whole thing with he helped them win this war and that, but he couldn't help the people that were in the valley because they had chariots of iron. Iron is the bane of the fairy folk. So therefore, the God of the Bible is just a fairy trickster spirit that's fucking with them. This makes much more sense and it's consistent with the text.
Good point to be made.
And once again, calling an alien God is like calling this tape measure a God because it can take everyone's measure.
I mean, like I said, as soon as you start labeling God everywhere, then it diminishes what most people consider that word to mean. And G-Man does that quite frequently.
As soon as you put like a definition on God, then that's when things get crazy. That's when you have to actually like give the definition of your God. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to concede that. Look, if there's an alien so powerful that he created the entire universe in reality.
No, I'm not saying created the universe. I'm just saying created life on this planet. Like he came up, ejaculated on the planet. He told people in the future, like the species told people in the future. It's like, we're God.
Yeah, no.
No, I mean, it makes more sense than a God.
Not really.
Not necessarily. Now, the idea that, there could certainly be life out there, but, ejaculating on a planet does not life make.
Yeah, and by the way, we're not ejaculating.
Then we do have, of course, a very vast evolutionary history. So, I mean, you could go to transpermia to a degree, but that's not specifically alien. It's just microbes or whatever the fuck.
But we're not. But the explanation is not just for the accountability or account for where life came from. The explanation is where did the fundamental laws of the universe come from?
I gotta go.
Right.
Downstairs.
So God is an explanation or possible
Come on, Carolyn, I got a red
for the laws of the universe, to account for the laws of the universe. That is a plausible,
Hey, man, it's your
possible thing. It
fault.
is-
Alien puts you about
It was
midway
totally your
through the
fault.
infinite regress.
You
Tony.
get it.
Tony, breathe, man.
Beat that kid's ass.
Yeah, aliens just put you about midway through the infinite regress. So what's the point?
Yeah, I don't think it really solves anything, do you? You know, I believe that there's a truths out there, but I'm kind of at the position right now where that I think that there are absolute truths. However, I don't think our brains are at the state that we could ever know what those absolute truths are. I think it's beyond our abilities. It'd be like an ant trying to, understand its quantum mechanics. There's probably more about reality than our brains are just capable of handling.
You know, my theological position at this point is more apatheistic than anything else. I don't really think it matters whether there's some kind of God or not, and if there is, I don't think it cares much about what we think of it. So what's the point?
So you think deism is plausible?
It's as plausible as anything else. The thing is, I think that these are all kind of irrelevancies. There's a certain level at which I think that people are just kind of pondering things to which there is no necessary answer, and even if there is an answer, it doesn't really affect our lives. So what's the point?
See, I don't. Okay, again, it's hard to.
And incidentally, that's actually more related to my theological position than my analytic position or how I view the world around me. It's just I don't think it matters.
It's hard for me to look at something and say, here's a universe that a deity in a deist position just put into play and then left it alone. I find no compelling reason to think that makes more sense to me than a theistic position.
You didn't have an ant farm as a child, then?
What's that?
You never had an ant farm as a child, did you?
Nope.
There we go. It shows.
Yeah, I mean, why would it? Okay, there's only two real reasons I think God would create something. One would be what's called aesthetic deism, where God created the universe because he thought it was pretty, right? It's just he basically just like painted a picture, right? The aesthetics. So that's all we are. We just happen to be an art thing for him. And the other one would be more of the classical theism approach, right? That he wanted, to create
something. He was a malignant narcissist that wanted people to worship him. You got it.
Well, I mean, there's obviously those overtones with that carry along with that. That baggage is there, okay? But putting aside the negativity, those are the two reasons why I can see an omnipotent being wanting to create something.
Actually, I'm going. My wife's actually crashed out at the moment, but I'm going to kind of insert something that she would, which is that these are all human conceptions. That these are simply human conceptions of God, and that this is the human trying to inject themselves into the theory, the idea of the divine. That we literally made God in our image in terms of faults and what have you, and that narcissism is just simply a reflection of us.
Well, I mean, there's a point to be made there, and even if we didn't create the gods, though, I definitely think that we are evaluating how they exist from our perspective, from a humanistic centric point of view, right? We do anthropomorphize these qualities, right? I mean, if you say, we have a very beautiful universe, I can either look back and go, okay, the universe wasn't created by anything, but I can appreciate the awe of it in more of a Spinoza kind of way. Or I can say maybe there was a deity that created it because he liked the beauty. But that's still as reference to how we appreciate art. That's our aesthetics.
Yeah, and this is kind of the problem. My wife and I will get into theological conversations periodically. She was a world religion major, and she ultimately wins every quote argument by simply kind of shrugging at me and saying, human reasoning. Because we base all this on our human understanding, which isn't satisfactory.
And that goes back to my original point, though. I think the only way we can evaluate things is from our human reasoning. And as I mentioned, even if there are absolute truths out there, which I do think there's probably are absolute truths, I don't think our brain's capable of understanding them.
Yeah, and my wife's argument would be that the human brain can't really understand God, so instead we've just kind of made up these pseudo gods to take the place of what's actually there. Would kind of be her argument.
Well, and she has
Because
a
we
point. What do you
can't
think the
understand
Roman and Greek pantheon was?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
But like I said, she wins all the arguments because her defeater is you're using your human understanding.
Yeah. Well, anyways, guys, I think we're kind of winding down.
I have one last question.
I'm sure you do.
So earlier you said eventually we'll get to the point where, human mind cannot grasp the concept of the universe, that we will not be able to fully understand it. Wouldn't AI take that place and understand it for us?
No, because it's still programmed by a human.
Yeah, I think the problem is AI can do a lot of do computations, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that the AI is going to have the ability to comprehend things like complex things like morality. I don't know if AI could ever get to that point. Now, I'm not saying that it can't. But
come on, you go to the most powerful computer ever fucking made, and you ask it what the meaning of life, the universe, and everything is, and what does it say, Steve?
42.
There you go.
So, yeah, but you got to remember though, the problem with that is it was cut short a minute before it actually gave the real answer.
No, that was the Earth. That was the Earth when the Earth was made to actually solve the final question.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
I'm talking Big Thought.
That's right, Big Thought.
Or Deep Thought, rather.
Deep Thought. Yeah, that's right. Because the Earth got blown up by the Volgons to make way for an
interstellar highway. Yeah,
interstellar bypass. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are like, "What the hell?"
The thing is that here's the answer. Now you have to figure out what the fucking question is.
What, Shadow?
Yes, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The thing is, the problem was trying to figure out what the actual fucking question was.
Yeah, the actual question was, what was 6 by 9? If I remember.
Actually, no. Just pick a number.
No, it was what was 6 by 9?
You didn't read through the whole series.
They changed it.
I'm pretty sure that was one of the things that was posed, but that was not the actual question. If I recall correctly, it was actually pick a number.
They were playing Scrabble, and it was pulling out things.
But that wasn't the answer. Okay, dude, that was at the beginning of the Earth, not at the end of it.
I thought that was the actual question, though. What was 6 by 9?
No, that was just the cavemen trying to figure out what the question was. That was like early in the calculations of trying to figure it out, dude.
I'm not looking at this. Now you got me wondering. I haven't read that in so many years.
I don't think it ever technically says what the question was.
Yeah, the ultimate question right here. What do you get when you multiply 6 by 9? That was the ultimate question.
Oh, it actually wasn't.
Yes. So I'm reading it.
The ultimate question was, how do you please? Never mind.
No. Actually, the ultimate question I don't think was ever revealed in the books, quite honestly.
Number 42 is in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything, calculated by an enormous supercomputer named Deep Thought over a period of 7.5 million years. Yep. Unfortunately, no one knows what the question is. Thus, wait, let me finish. Thus, to calculate the ultimate question, a special computer the size of a small planet was built from organic components and named Earth. The ultimate question was, quote, what did you get when you multiply 6 by 9? And was found by Arthur Dent and Ford Prefect in the second book of the series, The Restaurant at the End of the
Ford Prefect. Wow.
Actually, the actual question is located within the movie when he paused it at 42 minutes with subtitles on.
Oh, this is great. We got to fucking... Yes.
No, the thing is, if you recall, they went back to early proto-Earth and with all those telephone cleaners kind of screwed up the experiment to begin with. But beyond that, this was early man trying to figure it out. They never did the full calculations.
Well, it says
There's
right
a
here,
difference between looking it up on Wiki and actually going based on what's in the books.
I remember very distinctly that the ultimate question was, what do you get when you multiply 6 by 9?
That's the only thing that they put in there, but that was at the beginning, not at the end of the experiment. These were the first attempts to try to figure it out. This is the early calculations, man.
Yeah, see, I'm actually reading other sources. Believe it or not, what do you get when you multiply 6 by 9 is the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything, as explained in Douglas Adams' book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
All right, so the true actual meaning to life, the ultimate question, is we're inside of a calculator within the book.
Actually, here's
the entire universe is in a calculator, and we're just solving 6 times 9.
Actually, I'm going to let you guys in the truth. This is the secret to life, the use, and everything. Ready? Listen closely.
I thought it was a highway.
Listen closely. Shh, quiet. The secret to life, the universe, and everything is Sarah's ass.